Good morning. Today we have a very large docket and many bills that we will be hearing for the first time because they have to go to finance and appropriations. All of these bills are listed on the bills before the committee on your docket, except for Senator Evans' bill, and that's Senate Bill 285, and Senator Peterson's bill, and that's Senate Bill 375, which have been carried over from last week. All of these bills will receive 1 minute. Well, I guess I'll give you 2 minutes, 2 minutes per side for public testimony. We also have subcommittee reports from the subcommittee this week. There will, of course, be no public testimony on any of those bills. And please remember, members today, that we have a lot to get through, and if you know how you're going to vote on a bill, please just vote and keep this thing moving. So with that, to keep from getting off track like we did last week, I am going to start with my committee reports because a lot of these bills will be.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Sorry. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now we will commence with the subcommittee reports, and we're going to start with public education. Senator Hashmi.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. The first bill that the subcommittee heard last week was SB 20, patroned by Senator Hackworth. And this bill was repealing some of the work that we had, legislation that we had passed in 2020 with regard to the Department of Education developing non-discrimination policies for our transgender students in public elementary and secondary schools. The committee voted to recommend passing by indefinitely on a vote of 2-1, and I so move.
It's been moved properly second that the bill be reported. All in favor, please vote on.
Madam Chair, the recommendation was to pass by indefinitely.
I'm sorry. Thank you. The recommendation is to PBI. All of those in favor of that motion, please vote electronically. So you need a yes. Oh. We're voting on Senate Bill 20, Senator Hackworth's bill, coming out of the Subcommittee on Public Education, and the recommendation is that the bill be PBI. And so we're asking everybody to please vote electronically. Oh, I know I already did that. I already announced it before you got here.
Senator Peterson?
We're on Senate Bill 20. Committee started as close as we could on time. So for those of you who have missed it, we're on Senate Bill 20. The recommendation coming from the subcommittee is the PBI. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 8, noes 5.
Ayes 8, noes 5. The bill is PBI. Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, the next bill is SB 178, patroned by Senator Peake. Back in 2020, we had changed the probationary term of service from 5 years to 3 years, and this bill seeks to reverse that, again, making the probationary term of service to 5 years at the option of the school divisions. The committee recommendation was to PBI on a vote of 3-1, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 178 be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 8, noes 5.
Ayes 8, no 5. The bill is PBI. Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, the next bill is SB 265, and this is requiring that our Department of Education, along with Department of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, work with or establish a advisory committee to assess language development milestones for our deaf and hard of hearing children. that we have language acquisition milestones for ASL as well as English literacy developed, and that resources be developed and shared with parents for children who are deaf and hard of hearing. This bill was recommended for reporting on a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Madam Chair.
It's been moved and properly second. Oh, Senator Newman.
Madam Chair, to
Madam
Senator.
Chair.
Yes.
I'm sorry, there was a amendment that we needed to distribute.
Move the
And I
amendment.
move the amendment.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendment be agreed to. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Senator Newman.
I was just wondering, Senator Hashmi, as you know, before this committee, we've had two sides on how to teach for the children that are deaf. Does this wade into that or take a position on either side of that?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. This is, you're right, this bill has been addressed in previous sessions, and there is still a lot of discussion around the issue of language development assessment and the assessment resources. So there are still two sides on this concern.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Senator Cosgrove.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just a point of order. I think we just voted to adopt amendments, but this is a substitute. So we need to adopt the substitute.
I don't think we voted on the substitute.
I'm sorry, I should have said a substitute. I move the substitute.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Those opposed, no. Senator Hashmi. The recommendation.
The recommendation was to report on a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second.
Madam
that-
Chair, I believe this needs to be re-referred.
And re-refer to finance, I'm sorry.
I got the chair sitting right here next to me. Let's see, 3, 6, 2, 6, 5. And re-refer to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Close the roll.
Ayes 12, no 0,
Ayes
abstentions
12.
1.
Ayes 12, no 0, abstentions 1. The bill will be reported with the substitute will be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance. Senator Hashmi.
The next bill, Madam Chair, is SB 356, patroned by Senator Stewart, and this is concerning our CSA, our Children's Services Act, and this is to provide the opportunity to establish special education program funded jointly by a local governing body and school division, is principally located in Planning District 16. This is specific to that particular planning district. And I wanted to share that this was, there was some discussion around this particular bill because last year we had consolidated a previous bill proposal by Senator Stewart, Senator Peake, and Senator Mason into the establishment of a work group that would evaluate the development of these special ed programs using CSA funding. And so there was quite some discussion around this. While we did recommend reporting the bill on a vote of 4-0, I know there's still some concern that this carve-out might impact the work of the work group. And so I would ask the committee members to take that into consideration as they're thinking about their vote on this legislation. The committee recommended reporting on a vote of 4-0, and I so move.
And this bill has to go to Finance.
And
so
it has to go to finance, yes.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 356 be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 2.
Ayes 11, noes 2. Senate Bill 356 will be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance. Senator Hashmi.
The next bill is SB 384, patroned by Senator Donovan, and this is the establishment of a statewide learning management system so that there is consistency across the Commonwealth in using one central LMS so that students and school systems are able to negotiate the online learning platform with greater ease. This bill was recommended reporting with the amendments that are available on a vote of 4-0. I recommend reporting and re-refer to finance, and I so move.
It's been moved. Yeah. Senator Hashmi, you have amendment?
The amendment should be in your packet.
I need the motion with the amendments. It's been moved and properly second.
Thank you.
That Senate Bill 384 be reported as amended and re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Or say aye, yes. No, we're voting on the amendment right now. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Okay. Now the motion.
I recommend reporting and re-refer to finance as amended.
And second. Oh, it's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported as amended and re-referred to Senate Finance. Please designate electronically. Close roll.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Ayes 13, no zero. The bill will be reported as amended and re-referred to Senate Finance. Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, the next bill is SB 430, but the committee had asked Senator Donovan to present the amendments, and so I would prefer to defer until she is here in committee so that she can share the amendments on 430.
We will make that accommodation, and also that bill would have to be re-referred to Senate Finance. Senator Hashmi.
SB 431, there is a substitute, and I move the substitute.
It's been moved and properly second that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, please say aye. No's the same. Aye?
Aye.
Okay. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Hashmi.
SB 431 is recommending that, or is requiring that the Board of Education, in collaboration with VDH, recommend as best practice the shortest duration of quarantine possible as recommended by CDC for students and employees at public schools who contract COVID-19, to develop test-to-stay guidelines for the schools, and to recommend guidelines that schools will use as an alternative to quarantine for students and employees who contract COVID-19. It also provides guidelines established that shall be immediately distributed to the local school boards and reflect the updated recommendations of CDC. And I know one question we had in subcommittee was that the language of the bill did not include CDC. And so I would recommend that we make sure that the substitute has that, and I just want to make sure that I am reporting correctly on that as well.
Madam Chair,
Senator Peterson.
I think Senator Donovan just walked in, and we're just now taking up her docket. Maybe we ought to give her a moment, sort of.
Well, we're going to wait until we finish this 431 first, because she doesn't have to testify on this bill.
No, but I'm happy to.
No, you don't need to. Senator,
Are you okay with this?
Yes, substitute's fine.
but I thought she wanted to.
Senator,
I thought she wanted to speak
I
on
do have
430. Senator Donovan, do you want to speak on both bills, 430 and 431?
Madam Chairman, if it's the pleasure of the committee to pass this bill, I do not need to speak on it.
Okay, well,
I think I would prefer that you speak, Senator Donovan.
Madam Chairman, there's a new substitute for 431. Thank you.
this one.
Did we move that substitute? Okay.
They're not in the packet.
I need a motion on the substitute. That one is not in the package.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, say aye.
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 No, saying right. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This bill has had language taken out of it that would maybe hold the bill back, or hold the Virginia Department of Health back, as they constantly adapt to decreasing quarantines in school. There's an incredible variety across the state of Virginia. Kids have been out for 14 days at a time for quarantining, but that is not now what is indicated with what we know about COVID, and we need to nimbly create some consistency across Virginia to make sure that if it's safe for kids to stay in school, and it usually is, as evidenced by data from all over the world, including several states in the United States, that those kids stay in school, because quarantining them at home is adding to the learning loss they've had over the last year. So, Madam Chairman, the attempt was to remove from here anything that would thwart or would hold back the ability to give guidance and make sure that we keep kids in school, and that's what this amendment does.
Committee, questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Senator Howell?
This does not require any local school board to follow the recommendations and the guidelines of the Department of Education? Or will they be required to?
Madam Chairman, I'm looking for the latest substitute.
Just section 1.
Yeah, I think it's basically just guidance it's the guidance and recommended. Let me see. That's right, that's correct from council. Yes, recommending options. Thank you.
So there's, Madam
Senator
Chairman,
Howell?
so there's no requirement for any local school board to follow that?
There's not.
Thank you.
Is that as much as you want to report on that bill, Senator Donovan?
Yes, Madam Chairman, unless there are other questions.
I have another question.
Senator Locke?
Senator Donovan, this only has recommendations from the Department of Health, correct?
It does, correct.
No recommendations from the CDC?
Madam Chairman, the Department of Health is informed by the CDC, but as an example, Test to Stay, which is almost quickly moving out of even a need for keeping kids in school, but Test for Stay was something that was clearly evident and available to be used by schools. And in fact, many states adopted that policy before the school year last year, but the CDC did not adopt it or recommend it until December of this year. So this allows VDH to look at what CDC says, but also to look at best evidence in other cases and make sure that we are on the cutting edge of making sure we keep our kids in school and offering those recommendations, because this has been really confusing for school boards. And you can see that in a patchwork way, they're trying to stay up, but they're trying to interpret on their own. And this is an opportunity for VDH to be that interpreter that can make sure we set that priority of keeping kids in school and adapting to best practices for COVID based on that principle.
Thank you, Senator Donovan. Any further questions of members of the committee?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Senator Peterson?
I'd like to make a motion to report this substitute, speak to the motion. I think this is
Can I
common.
get a second? Second. Thank you.
I
Senator Peterson?
think this is common sense. I mean, we need to move forward, folks, and I think these test to stay guidelines make sure that we're putting a priority on the kids' best interests, particularly asymptomatic children, and not withholding them from education unnecessarily. So I move to report the bill.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill, and that is Senate Bill 431, be reported with a substitute. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
Mr. Barker here.
Ayes 9, noes 5.
Ayes 9, noes 5, the bill is reported with a substitute, and it does not have to go to Senate Finance. Okay, Senator Hashmi, you want to go back to 430 while Senator Donovan is on a roll?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like Senator Donovan to present SB 430.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Madam Chairman. SB 430 is something that
And
this...
Senator Donovan, I think we already did recommend to adopt the amendment, so yes, go right
That is
ahead.
fantastic. Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is the opportunity for us to add growth measures to our ability to assess students in Virginia schools. It's something that's done in many other states very effectively. What we're measuring now is achievement, and that is what you measure in a test. In a single test like an SOL or any other test measures what kind of a day a child is having. But when you look at growth assessment, You are looking at how a child is progressing over time. And this could never be more important than it is now when we are faced with assessing learning loss of individual children. It's not a composite. It's an opportunity for us to look at each child, measure where they are, and make sure we can get them back to grade level performance. I think as a parent, I always thought we were doing this. It surprised me to find out we're not. The amendment that we have here removes from the language the value assessment, value-added modeling, which limited the number of growth models that could be looked at and caused some anxiety in some of the stakeholders because of the limits and what that might mean. And the intent of this bill is better clarified by removing that language and simply saying that we will we'll measure student growth and provide data on learning loss. And with that, Madam Chairman, it's a simple two-line bill.
Senator Heisman for the recommendation.
Madam Chair, first, I don't believe we moved the amendment because we didn't have it in front of us, so I moved the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendment be adopted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Senator Sasslaw, how do you vote? He's an aye? Okay, just curious. No, okay.
Madam
Been
Chair,
adopted.
I just wanted to clarify with the senator. Senator, are all the stakeholders now on board with this? I know we had some debate in committee about the language of value-added modeling. So are the stakeholders all comfortable now with this language?
Madam Chairman, Madam Chairman, I'm not sure I can answer that question. I made the amendment as they suggested, but I have not discussed it with them, so I'm happy to hear from them.
Madam Chair, if we could hear just briefly from Mr.
Briefly.
Riddle.
This was heard in subcommittee, correct?
But the substitute was the issue.
The substitute was not, please.
Madam Chair, thank you. Shane Riddle with the Virginia Education Association. Yes, we're fine with the amendments. Thank you,
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so
There's one other speaker.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Laurie McCullough with Virginia ASCD. We appreciate Senator Donovan's amendment, and we're in support of the bill.
Thank you. There appear to be no other speakers. Senator Heisman, were you complete with your?
So, Madam Chair, since our stakeholders are on board with this, the committee would then recommend reporting, and I so move.
It's been moved by
With
Senator
amendments.
Hashmi and Senator Newman seconds that the bill be reported and re-referred to finance as amended. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Close roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill is reported and will be referred to Senate Finance with the amendments. Senator Hashmi.
The next bill is SB 570, patroned by Senator Kiggins, and this is a bill that would require that all of our public elementary and secondary schools address the issue of inherently divisive concepts and prohibit them. We had quite some discussion around this issue. It was not clear in the discussion exactly what would constitute an inherently divisive concept. The term is not really defined within the bill, according to what some of the committee members were questioning, and we recommended pass by indefinitely on a vote of 2-1, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please designate. Close roll.
Ayes 9, noes 4.
Ayes 9, noes 4. The bill will be passed by indefinitely. Senator Hashmi, you have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next bill is SB 598. This is College Partnership Laboratory School.
Could we please have some decorum here? Senator Hashmi.
This bill is patroned by Senator Pillion, and committee members have been in conversation with Senator Pillion, and we would ask that we pass the bill by for 1 week as we continue to work on this particular legislation.
Without objection, the bill will go by for the week. Senator Hashmi.
SB 600 has amendments, and I move the amendments.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendments be agreed to. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, no.
Aye.
Okay, Senator Hashmi?
SB 600, patroned by Senator Pillion, is asking our local school boards to require schools to collaborate with the chief law enforcement officer within the locality to do school safety audits with regularity and under some degree of structure. And the committee recommended reporting with amendments on a vote of 4-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that Senate Bill 600 be recommended for reporting with the amendments. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Close the roll.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Ayes 13, no zero. The bill will be reported and be referred and with the amendments. I don't see any fiscal impact. Senator Hashmi?
SB 556 is patroned by Senator Donovan, and I believe there's amendments, and I move the amendment.
It's been moved, the amendments on the amendments.
The bill number again, ma'am?
What's
It's 556.
656. I'm sorry.
656?
Madam Chairman,
Senator Donovan?
I believe there is a substitute today.
What is it?
So we have an amendment, but we now have a substitute. Do we have it before us? Oh, here it comes. Thank you. There's a motion on the substitute. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the substitute be agreed to on Senate Bill 656. All in favor, say aye. No, have the same right. We'll just take a few seconds just to look at the substitute.
Yes, Madam Chairman, and I'm happy to explain the
Senator
changes.
Donovan?
Madam Chairman, the changes are to reflect input that we got in subcommittee about how the language of the original bill really forced adoption of guidelines. And in the modification of the bill, it directs the department to develop the guidelines and then allows the boards to adopt policies consistent with, which is the same language we've used in other cases where we've looked at developing material, but allowing the school boards to make their own decision about adopting and to follow that guidance and modify it if need be. And that is really the difference. Madam Chairman, this bill speaks to, and I'm sorry, there is a line amendment that needs to be made in here in addition to this, and I apologize for that. But on line 14, you would scratch as identified by the board, and that would actually go under line 12 after sexually explicit content. Madam Chairman, this is simply.
Okay, for that, we need to get a motion on that line amendment.
Thank you.
It's been moved and second that the line amendment be approved. All in favor, please say aye. Noes have the same right. Senator Donovan, you have further?
Madam Chairman, the bill seeks to just ensure there is awareness of parents when sexually explicit instructional material is being introduced in school. This allows parents to have conversations about the material, to be involved, and to really produce the constructive kind of relationship we want between school and families and students. It gives the parents opportunities to elect another non-explicit material if they feel very strongly about that, but it in no way, you can see at the bottom, there's an enactment clause that makes it extremely clear, it's actually on the back now, that this shall not be construed as requiring or providing for censoring of any books, because that would be objectionable, and it is not the intent of the bill. The intent of the bill is to make sure that everybody's on the same page, Madam Chairman. And I think it's very healthy, and it's now been aligned to adopt policy as we've done in the past. And that, Madam Chairman, is the bill. I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions from members of the committee? Back to you, Senator Donovan.
Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, is that Senator Edwards?
Yeah.
Okay, Senator Edwards.
To the patron,
Could you please speak into the mic, Senator Edwards?
I am. To the patron, what is sexually explicit? Isn't this vague, overly vague, and how would you ever come up with that? And isn't this smacking of banning books? Isn't that what we're trying to avoid?
Madam Chairman and Senator Edwards, sexually explicit material is actually defined in the code. And we can pull up that code definition if you'd like. We can have council do that. In this case, though, I left the definition up to the board. I'm happy to cite the code if you would prefer, but I was trying to make sure that this was a conversation. And so it is actually already defined. As far as censoring books, yes, sir, no, I object as much as you do. And that's why you see the enactment clause on lines 26 and 27. And it is a little confusing because it's the 2 lines now on the back of your paper. So it looks like it's not there, but it is. That specifically says this should not in any way censor books.
Madam Chair,
Senator Edwards?
commenting on it, I don't know how you avoid censoring. And it's the First Amendment issues all over the place, and the idea of banning anything, in my opinion, is, or even though you say that, that's exactly what it does. So I oppose the bill.
Madam Chair,
Senator Peterson?
I just can't let that go unpassed. This is a parental notification, okay? It just says the board shall come up a model policy on parental notification. So I know the buzzwords are, we're supposed to say the buzzwords, but this is a parental notification, so I don't have a problem with the legislation.
Senator Sutherland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Peterson spoke more concisely than I could, but he said exactly what I intended to say, but in less words, so I thank him.
Thank you. Senator Hashmi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to address some of the questions, we had the same similar questions in committee. We heard from some of our teachers and educators that these processes are essentially already in place. There are options for parents who object to material to be able to express those concerns to their child's teacher, and that there are alternate instructional materials that can be provided. Some of the questions we had in committee were regarding what exactly constitutes sexually explicit content, and as a result of that discussion, the committee voted to, let me make sure I do this correctly, we recommended reporting, but the decision was a split one on a vote of 2-2. And I recommend reporting with the substitute that we have now received today, Madam Chair.
You heard the motion?
Ma-
Wait a minute, just a second. Senator Locke?
Madam Chair,
The committee
there was
recommended.
quite a bit of discussion in the subcommittee, and as Senator Hashmi has said, there are safeguards already in place in public schools for parental notification as it relates to these types of materials. And this is simply laying it on. And if there is material that is not acceptable to a parent, the parent already has in place a process by which they can opt out for their children. If they do not want their child to be exposed to materials that they do not wish them to be exposed to. There is a process already in place to do that. This is simply another layer unnecessary layer of the government interfering in that process for the public school system. So I don't see why it's necessary.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Let me see, I think I heard Senator Lewis, and then I hear Senator Newman.
I have a question for Senator Donovan. So if there is a statutory definition, why do we leave, the thing that troubles me about this, and I like the substitute better than the original, but the thing that troubles me about this is voting on a definition that isn't a definition. So if there's a statutory definition, why don't you refer to that?
Madam Chairman, I accept that as a friendly amendment, and instead of the board, I would ask that council insert as defined in and cite the code section that defines sexually explicit. And thank you.
And Madam Chair, can council tell us what that definition is?
I had it in subcommittee, but I don't have it today.
Okay, Senator Donovan, while you're looking for that, we'll hear from Senator Newman, and then council does have it already? Okay, we'll hear from council.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This would be in 18.2-374.1, referring to the definition of sexually explicit visual material.
18.2-374.1.
Yes.
I have looked at it before, but it would probably be helpful if you did read it.
No. Well, I think for the purpose of those who are live streaming, and it's for some of us on this committee as well, we'd like to hear you read it, Senator Donovan.
I don't have it, Madam Chairman, but I'll have council read it.
Could council give it to Senator Donovan?
Sure.
Madam Chair and Senator, in this code section, it means a picture, photograph, drawing, sculpture, motion picture, film, digital image, including such materials stored in a computer's temporary internet cache when 3 or more images or streaming videos are present, or similar visual representation which depicts sexual bestiality, a lewd exhibition of nudity as nudity is defined in another code section, or sexual excitement, sexual conduct, or sadomasochistic abuse as defined in another code section, or a book, magazine, or pamphlet which contains such a visual representation.
Madam Chair.
Let me wrap my mind around that for a second. Senator Newman.
Do you want to act on the amendment first, or?
Yes, I had just had to take a moment, Senator Newman, I'm sorry. We need a motion on the line amendment. All in favor of that amendment, please say aye or nay. Aye. The amendment has been adopted.
Madam Chair.
Senator Newman.
Madam Chair, this legislature's been dealing with this for a long time. I think most of you remember when former Senator Garrett got on the floor and did some things that I thought were inappropriate, and we kind of calmed him down and backed him down. But the issue apparently still isn't going away. I like the underlying bill better. I don't believe there's anything about it that's banning books, but there is clearly inappropriate material that is making its way in. And this bill, while it's not a home run to me, is a bill that simply says that parents should have the ability to be notified and make decisions for their children. And I know that we sometimes get on our political hobby horse here and go one way or the other, but I really believe that this is the fundamental item that we need to do. I would have been okay even if it had been left up to the school board. I think they could help out. But at some point, this type of material can be checked out at the library. It can be purchased in any book. No one's burning these books. They're available out there. They're probably available on the internet. But just the question is could parents have a safe haven, maybe just in the schools where they're notified? Maybe the stuff is still there. I wish it wasn't, but let's say it's still there, but at least notified. So, Madam Chair, I hope, as amended, that we would pass the bill and give the parents just this modicum of assistance.
Senator Lewis, you are still in queue. Did you want to speak further?
Madam Chair.
Senator Hashmi.
One point of discussion that we heard to address what Senator Newman was saying. We heard from educators who pointed out that they have the competency, they have the training, they have the professionalism to be in a position to select instructional materials that are age appropriate, and that is part of their responsibility, and they take that very seriously. And the idea that parents don't have a say-so is simply not true. Parents are intimately involved in the process. They have opportunities to be part of parent-teacher committees. They have opportunities to share feedback on instructional materials. They have the opportunity to request that their child be offered alternate material. We've seen this particularly in family life education instructions. Children have the opportunity to opt out of such instruction if a parent so desires. And so this process is already in place. That was the objection that many of our speakers raised in the subcommittee discussion. And so they asked that we take that into consideration.
Senator Hashmi, back to you for the motion.
The committee was split again
Madam
on...
Chairman, I'd like to speak before a motion, if I may, to wrap up the bill.
Okay, I think staff is telling me that there is already a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, there's already been a motion
And the motion was?
to report.
Okay, great, thank you.
Madam Chair, may I amend that motion? Just, the subcommittee recommended reporting because it was split 2-2. And I think my personal recommendation would be to vote no on this bill. But the subcommittee recommended reporting with the new substitute now, and that's what I make that motion.
Well, Senator Hashmi, I just want to pause for a second because I neglected to recognize Senator Cosgrove in queue. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Look, folks, I would just like to know, and maybe Senator Locke can tell me, because she says there's a process for parents to be involved. How does that work? How does a parent know what explicit material is being presented to their children in public school while they're sitting at home?
Senator Locke, would you like to?
I think all of this came about when Beloved was used in an AP course. This is how all of this transpired to begin with. And there was an opt-out option for students who were in that AP course. And if students are in AP courses, that is equivalent to a freshman year course. So are you going to tell your freshman who's in college that they cannot take or read courses when they are a freshman in college? I mean, if someone came to my class and told me that their child couldn't read something that I required, you know, I would certainly tell them where they could go. But at any rate, there was an option in that particular AP course that the student could opt out and have an alternative if they did not want to read those particular requirements, if I recall correctly from that previous discussion. And having had, well, not my child, but a child that lived in my house, when there were particular requirements made, particularly in family life courses, there was a piece of paper sent home that said, this is what we are going to be teaching in these courses. Do you want your child to be exposed to these things that we are going to be teaching? Yes or no? Please check and return this paper back to the school.
Thank you, Senator
Madam
Locke.
Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
If I might. Look, how many of us here, up here, or in the audience have not taken those pieces of paper home? How many have said, you know what, my report card's not so good. Maybe let's hold it off for a while so I don't get in trouble. I'm sorry, excuse me?
I think the response was, but that was the relationship that you have with your child. Is that the kind of relationship you have with your
I
child?
was making a statement, not a question, Madam
Okay.
Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, basically, Senator Peterson nailed this. This is a parental notification bill. This bill does not prohibit this explicit material in our public schools. And I would also say that in referring to a young person as a college freshman, there are people who are 16 and 17 who are taking AP classes, or they may be taking courses at the community college, but they are not a college freshman. They are not over 18, and they should have their parents' input on this type of explicit material. I mean, I just don't know why we continue to try to push this stuff forward in the public education system. Thanks.
Senator Edwards, you're next in queue,
Yeah,
and then
Madam
Senator
Chair, I'd
Dunn.
like to
Well,
make
look,
a s-
we're gonna give this 2 more minutes, and we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna vote on it, okay? Enough discussion about it. It's already been heard in subcommittee. So Senator Hashmi, we're gonna give this bill another 2 minutes, and then we're going to vote.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to pass the bill by indefinitely.
Second.
It's been moved and second that the bill be PBI. All in favor of that motion?
Madam Chairman, I would like to wrap up my bill. I've been waiting to speak, and I would like to respond to some of
Senator
the comments
Donovan?
that have been made. Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, this is the opportunity for parents to have a conversation with their child. These kinds of materials that are being presented in school is an opportunity to develop that relationship between the parent and the child, talk about uncomfortable and challenging things, and let me be clear, it is not laying it on, it is laying it out. We heard in testimony from the subject matter experts that there was not a consistent policy across the school boards in Virginia, and that it was extremely variable. And as a result, having clear guidelines from the Department of Education would accomplish exactly what everybody thinks already exists, but it doesn't. So let's lay it out for everybody. Let's make sure parents can have the conversation, and let's make sure we pass this bill. So I urge you to vote against passing it by indefinitely. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You all have heard the motion. The motion is the PBI. All in favor of that motion will vote electronically, yea or nay. That's on to PBI. Close roll.
Ayes 7, noes 8.
Ayes 7, noes 8. The bill does not PBI.
Madam Chairman, move to report.
Why don't we just reverse the vote? It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
It's still in the committee.
Second.
It's still in the committee.
So we have to vote.
We're going back to the primary motion. Back to the primary motion. Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, the subcommittee recommended reporting with the substitute on a vote of 2 yea and 2 nay. And I so.
Second.
All in favor, please designate electronically.
Ayes 8, noes 7.
Ayes 8, no 7. The bill is reported. Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, the next bill is SB 724, patroned by Senator Pillion, and this is requiring school boards to submit an annual report to VDOE and our Department of Housing and Community Development to provide the student's 911 address that does not, those who do not have broadband service, in order to facilitate our ability to distribute broadband access more effectively to our students. And this was recommended for reporting by the subcommittee on a vote of 4-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and second that Senate Bill 724 be recommended for reporting. And I don't see that it has a fiscal impact. So we don't have to send it to finance. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill will be reported. Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, SB 737, patroned by Senator Boysko, has some amendments that should be in the packet, and I move the amendments.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendment be agreed to. All in favor, please say aye. Nays have the same right. Aye.
Aye.
Senator Hashmi.
This bill is focused on the administration of I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it today. Epinephrine, is that correct? Epinephrine, thank you. My mind is freezing this morning. This requires that our Board of Education amend the regulations so that we require each early childhood care and education entity to also implement policies for the possession and administration of the EpiPens, and every such entity to be administered by a nurse at the entity. This bill emerged as a result of a very tragic situation for a child, and so it was recommended for reporting with the amendments on a vote of 4-0, and I so move.
You've heard the motion and a second that the bill be reported with the amendments. All in favor of that motion, please designate.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Ayes 14, no.
Abstentions 1.
Ayes 14, no zero, abstentions 1. The bill will be reported with the amendments. Thank you. Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, the next bill is SB 739, patroned by Senator Donovan, and this is requiring that, except in the case of the 10 unscheduled remote learning days otherwise that are now permitted by law, each school board offer in-person instruction as defined in the bill to each student that's enrolled in a local school division in a public elementary or secondary school for at least the minimum number of required annual instruction hours. We heard quite some discussion around this particular legislation. The subcommittee was tied in its final assessment. The subcommittee recommended reporting, but again, the vote was 2-2, and I so move.
So move which way?
Well, the subcommittee recommends reporting, and I so
Madam
move.
Chairman.
I'll move to report.
Okay, it's been moved, but now we have some questions by members of the committee. Senator Edwards and Senator Cosgrove. Senator Edwards?
Yeah, everybody
Senator-
realizes that in-person is much better than remote, but how do you control that in the situation we're in with pandemic? I mean, sometimes this is all you can do. And that's important because I think you got to be flexible about these things. And I think we ought to have in-person instruction.
Is that
as
a
much as
question
possible.
or is that a
And
comment?
so
That sounds like a statement.
that's my statement.
Yes. Thank you, Senator Edwards.
Madam Chairman, there's an amendment.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, right now, I was just getting ready to recognize Senator Cosgrove, but
Okay,
if
I
there's an amendment,
apologize.
we need to entertain the amendment.
Am I up? Am I?
Senator Donovan, would you like to please explain the amendment, the line amendment?
Madam Chairman, yes, the line amendment is introduced after line 16, after Code Section 22.1-98, that we would insert or Section 22.1-276.2. Madam Chairman, this responds to some testimony and comments we heard in committee that showed concern about alternate education for children that needed it. And this references the code section that allows teachers to remove a child from the classroom and for what reasons, so that those children can be instructed in an alternate way. And I will answer any further questions, including the issue about how do we do this in COVID, Madam Chairman, when the committee's ready, but I move the amendment.
Second.
You heard a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Members of the committees that I will recognize in this order, Senator Cosgrove, Lewis, and Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a parliamentary issue. You know, we have this before us, and the folks at home and here don't. We have a lot of these votes that are split 2-2. So I'm not sure that a motion to recommend PBI or to report can be properly made with a split 2-2 vote. So I would just like people to know what's going on here. We have it, but y'all don't. So thank you.
Senator Lewis and then Peterson.
Yes, Madam Chair, I've got a question for Senator Donovan. And this is a concern I expressed to her earlier about, I support the underlying thrust of the bill, but my concern is with normal flexibility that a school would have in regards to, and I think you've addressed at least one part of that with your amendment, with virtual learning in cases. I know the original bill had the standard weather provision in there, and you've addressed one case here, but are there other cases where in a normal course of instruction, not shutting down an entire school and going virtual for an entire school, but individual students or in cases of power failure or something like that, where would they be precluded from using virtual instruction like that?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman and Senator Lewis, if I may. I spent a lot of time looking at that because the original bill actually had extended permissibility that allowed schools to close for COVID, essentially. And since we were putting that in the code, it was not appropriate. So the code section that's already referenced in the bill before the amendment today references that we passed legislation last year or the year before that allowed schools to have an extended period of time should there be a power line cut or a flood or something along those lines. And we actually extended that to 10 days.
It's 10 days.
And in addition to that, as I read that entire code section, there are also exemptions. School boards and schools can apply for more time if needed from the superintendent of schools. So there is already a recourse in there to accommodate extraordinary circumstances without us compromising the principle that really you need to have in-person education.
Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the committee and people watching at home, the context for this bill is that Senate Bill 1303 that we passed last year with a bipartisan vote to reopen the schools, that lapses on August 1st of 2022. So in other words, after August 1st, 2022, we will have no statutory authority to keep schools open. And my colleague, Senator Edwards, says, well, you know, what about the situation? It's uncertain. Well, let me tell you what's going to be certain. We passed this bill, schools are going to stay open. And that's number one. That absolutely is something that we have to state. Closing schools is not an acceptable alternative. It will never happen again, at least while I'm in this body. And this is the bill we're going to pass to make sure it never happens again like it was closed a year ago. Thank you.
I think we've heard from all of the speakers in the queue. On Senate Bill 739, Senator Hochman, you had made a motion.
Madam Chair, the subcommittee was split, and so I'm happy for someone else to make a.
I move to
recommendation.
Move to report.
It's been moved and sounded like it was two reports, so do one of you want to be the second? The moved and properly second that the bill be reported. All in favor? Or not, please vote on the electronic voting board.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Ayes 9, no 6, the bill is reported as amended. Senator Hochman.
Madam Chair, the next bill is SB 766, and this was focused on school athletics, participation in female sports, requiring each elementary school or a private school that competes in sponsored athletic activities to require that their teams be composed of individuals based on biological sex, that biological sex males or females under this bill, that they be clearly identified and defined under this bill. Male students would not be permitted to participate in any school athletic team or squad designated for, quote, female, quote, women, or, quote, girls sports. This bill, again, received quite a bit of discussion. We heard from many families of transgender students who were in opposition to the bill because it is a form of discrimination to our transgender students. We also heard from the Virginia High School League who clarified that they already have policies in place that address the issue of transgender students playing playing in elementary or high school sports. And so this particular recommendation was that we pass by indefinitely on a vote of 2 to 1, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please designate it electronically. Noes have the same right. Close roll.
Ayes 9, noes 4.
Ayes 9, noes 4. The bill will be passed by indefinitely. Senator Hochman, is that the last bill in your committee?
Madam Chair, that concludes the report. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. You had a lot of heavy lifting to do in that subcommittee, and it is very much appreciated. We will now move to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. I now turn it over to Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first bill we heard was Senate Bill 458 from Senator Chase, addressing institutions of higher education, localities, public schools, addressing mask. It prohibited any locality, institution of higher ed, employer, school board, division, superintendent, school principal, or private school from adopting, implementing, or enforcing any policy, rule, or order related to COVID-19 that required individuals to wear a face covering. And after a discussion, it was recommended that this be passed by indefinitely on a 2-to-1 vote, and I so move.
It's been moved. And second, that Senate Bill 458 be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please designate like electronic. Those have the same right. Clerk, please close the roll.
Senator Peterson for Lewis.
I don't know what Lewis is. I'm gonna vote aye on this one, but I don't know Lewis.
Who has Lewis?
Ayes 8, noes 4.
Ayes 8, noes 4. The bill is passed by indefinitely. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 667 has amendments, and I move the amendments.
It's been moved. And second? Second. That the amendments be adopted. All in favor, please say aye. Those have the same right. Aye. Senator Locke?
Okay, Senate Bill 667 from Senator Hashmi addresses the Virginia Office of Education Economics. It directs the State Council of Higher Education to partner with the Virginia Office of Education Economics to collect and utilize data that includes the gaps that are most significant in hindering the Commonwealth from achieving its goal that it funds. Okay, I guess I need to put on my glasses. Are intended to accomplish under the Innovative Partnership Program, and provides other directives to the council and the office to collaborate on and accomplish the innovative internship program.
Thank you. And that does have fiscal impact, Senator Locke.
It does. And so we recommend reporting with the amendments on a vote of 4-0 and re-refer to finance.
You've heard the motion that the bill be reported and be re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Nays have the same right. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 13, no 0.
Ayes 13, no 0. The bill will be reported and reported as amended and re-referred to Finance. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 685 has an amendment, and I move the amendment. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment be adopted. All in favor, please say aye. All right.
Okay, Senate Bill 685, as amended, addresses the Advanced Manufacturing Talent Investment Program and Fund. It creates the Advanced Manufacturing Talent Investment Program and Fund to assist qualified institutions. A goal of increasing by at least 25,000 new eligible credentials, which are non-credit workforce credentials awarded by a qualified institution in a high-demand advanced manufacturing field as identified by the Board of Workforce Development. And after discussion, it was recommended to be reported on a vote of 4-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded that Senate Bill 685 be reported with amendment and re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion or not, please vote electronically. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 13, no 0.
Ayes 13, no 0. The bill will be reported as amended and re-referred to Senate Finance. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 717 from Senator Reeves addresses foreign governments, programs, and grants, and it would have prohibited employees at public institutions of higher education in the Commonwealth from participating in Chinese-sponsored talent recruitment programs or receiving Chinese-funded grants. And after extensive discussion with regard to this, it was recommended that this bill be passed by indefinitely on a vote of 3-1, and I so move.
You heard the motion? Second. And a second that the bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Close the roll.
Ayes 9, noes 5.
Ayes 9, noes 5. The bill will be passed by indefinitely. Thank you. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 751 from Senator Donovan has a substitute, and I move the substitute.
It's been moved and second that the substitute be adopted. All in favor of that motion, say aye. It is adopted. Senator Locke.
It establishes the Standardized Healthcare Academy program for the purpose of providing training and opportunities to high school students in healthcare professional programs that are offered by associate degree granting public institutions of higher education. It essentially the bill directs the State Board for Community Colleges to establish this program and work with the Department of Education in setting out the parameters for the program. And on a vote of 4-1, it is recommended that this be reported, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported, that the substitute be reported. We did it, yeah, with the substitute be reported and re-refer to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion, designate electronically, yea or nay. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance with the substitute. Senator Locke.
And our last bill was from Senator Reeves, Senate Bill 768, and there is a substitute, and I move the substitute.
It's been moved and properly second that the substitute be adopted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sounds like the substitute has been adopted. Senator Locke.
Senate Bill 768 addresses Virginia Military Survivors and Dependents Education Program, and it will allow the stepchildren of veterans who have claimed a child on his or her tax returns for 3 years or claimed the child on their defense enrollment eligibility reporting system for 3 years to qualify for tuition tuition and fee waivers. And it also allows the Commissioner of Veteran Services the authority to waive residency requirements if they are not met due to the death of the veteran or surviving spouse. And on a vote of 4-0, we recommend reporting, and I so move.
You've heard the motion and a second that the bill be reported. With the substitute, all in favor of that motion, please vote electronically. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported.
And that concludes our report.
Thank you so much, Senator Locke. Appreciate your report. Now we will hear from the Subcommittee on Health Professions, and so now I'll turn it over to Senator Barker.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We'll start out with Senate Bill 169 from Senator Peake. What this does is it allows licensed practical nurses, provides authority for them to pronounce death in certain situations. There are amendments to that. Do you want to, Senator Peake, do you want to talk about the amendments? So,
Senator Peake.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This bill, we have really restricted it to LPNs, only in the hospice care setting, and only for hospice patients who have do not resuscitate orders on file.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
So I would move the amendments now.
It's been moved to proper second that the amendments be adopted. All in favor, please designate by saying aye. Nays have the same right. The amendments are adopted. Senator?
All right, and on a report, on a vote of 6-0, the subcommittee recommends reporting with these amendments, and I so move.
It's been moved to properly second that the bill be reported as amended. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported with the amendment. Senator Barker.
All right, the third one is Senate Bill 414. I mean, the next one, the second one is Senate Bill 414 from Senator Kiggins. It deals with nurse practitioners. Right now, the nurse practitioners, when they're part of a patient care team where there's physician supervision, the physician cannot be supervising more than 6 licensed nurse practitioners. What's proposed in this bill is to raise that limit from 6 nurse practitioners to 10 nurse practitioners, and there is an amendment that was adopted that would retain the limit of 6 for nurse practitioners working in the emergency departments around the Commonwealth. So I would move that amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendment to maintain for the patient's care team delivering care, all in favor of that vote, recommendation for the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Noes have the same right. Thank you.
All
Senator
right,
Barker.
thank you. And with that amendment, the subcommittee recommended reporting by a vote of 6-0, and I so move.
It's been moved and second that
Madam
Senate Bill.
Chairman, just,
I'm sorry, I'm on the
Sure.
wrong queue. Senator Cosgrove.
just a question, on our little cheat sheets. Never mind, I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you.
misread, I'm sorry.
Senator Barker.
Yes, I
There is a motion.
I moved that the bill be reported.
As amended. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically. Nays have the same right. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported as amended.
All right, thank you. Next, we have two bills that were identical bills dealing with the Board of Medicine and implicit bias and cultural competency issues. Senate Bill 670 from Senator Hashmi. We voted on a vote of, I guess it was 7-0, to recommend that bill be rolled into Senator Locke's Senate Bill 456. And I move to make that rolled
That's
in.
670 rolled into
456,
456.
right.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second, and all in favor say aye. Aye.
We
Senator
have,
Barker.
Madam
we have-
Chair, that is a
it's a
recorded vote.
recorded vote. yeah.
Yes. Oh, all in favor of that motion, please vote electronically. Thank you so much. Clerk, close roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. Senate Bill 670 will be rolled into Senate Bill 456. So Senator Barker,
Yes, the subcommittee did recommend adopting one line amendments. I guess there are two of those that have the same language, and they define the term implicit bias, and I move that those amendments be adopted.
it's been moved and properly second that the amendments to the bill that has just been enrolled be adopted. All in favor of adopting the amendments, please say aye.
Aye.
Those have the same right. Pass. Senator Barker.
All right, this bill, we had a lot of discussion on this bill, dealing with a number of different issues. It was brought to the attention of members of the Senate, particularly by individuals who are concerned about maternal mortality differences within the population based upon race and ethnicity and those types of issues there. There was discussion of whether or not we as the Senate should in effect require the Board of Medicine to do this, or whether we should leave it to their decision on that. There was also concerns about how some of the calculations were done as it related to the differences in outcomes there, and a frustration from me in terms of last year we passed a legislation establishing a commission to deal with the maternal mortality issue, and that commission never met during the year, so we did not have recommendations from them on these things. On a narrow vote of 4-3 with one abstention, the subcommittee recommended passing by, carrying over for the year this, and hopefully we would get more information and be able to, with that commission that was established last year, to help guide us in terms of what would be the most appropriate things to do in the future. And I make that motion.
The motion is to
Carry over.
carry the bill
Yeah, just
over.
carry over for the
And
year.
that is the incorporated bill.
Yeah.
To carry over the incorporated bill so that the team can work further on it. So with that, Clerk, do we need an electronic vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So with that, I would ask that all members vote electronically.
Ayes 13, noes 2.
Ayes 13, noes 2. The combined bill will be carried over for the year. Senator Barker?
Next bill we have is Senate Bill 542, Senator Marsden. I would ask that we pass that by for the day. Senator Donovan has a related bill that we did not get to last week. And I think we need to make sure that those two are compatible before we move forward on those bills, so.
Without objection.
All right, and then the last one was dealing, Senate Bill 711 from Senator Chase, and was dealing with the issue of prescriptions and off-label use of that. There was lengthy discussion and testimony on that bill. There were individuals who were concerned that there are consequences to physicians who have off-label use. We did have the head of the Department of Health Professions, and he said that there are no physicians who have that they have attempted to control in any way in terms of that off-label use. And with that, that we recommended on a 5-3 vote, passing it by indefinitely, and I offer that motion now.
Madam Chairman, this is the bill that I referenced earlier. If you don't mind, if you could give me 2 seconds to respond to that. I actually have a letter from the Virginia Department of Health contradicting what Dr. Brown said in committee. It's a letter to doctors and healthcare providers saying that they strongly discourage. I mean, this is saying that exactly the opposite of what he said in committee. I would also tell you, Madam Chairman, that I heard the concerns of the senators that were on that committee, and I've actually got a substitute bill.
Senator Chase, I'm sorry, but we're having to deal with the bill that came out of the subcommittee.
Okay.
And there has been a motion, so if you would like to take the document that you have so it can be copied and shared with everybody, we would appreciate receiving that. But your bill has already been heard, so we can't have any further testimony on that particular bill. So, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to go with the recommendation of the subcommittee.
Madam Chair,
Senator Suderline.
could I ask that Senate Bill 711 go by temporarily so that those copies that you requested could be made and we could review those before we consider our committee's final action on the legislation?
Senator Suderline, I will have the copies made and distributed to everybody, but the bill has already been heard. The motion has already been made, and we're going to move on the motion. You will receive a copy of the document that she has. It cannot be included as part of the testimony that was already heard in the subcommittee. Senator Barker.
Yes, I made the motion to pass by indefinitely.
You heard the motion and a second that the bill be PBI. All in favor of that motion,
Madam
please?
Chair, before we do that.
Senator Newman.
Madam Chair, I think there might need to be some clarifications for the subcommittee, and because we heard in subcommittee that, and I think it was persuasive, that the board and the commissioner and others had not leaned in at all on the use of off-label drugs. And what I think we've seen is that maybe they have leaned in, and I don't know where this comes from, but it doesn't look like it's disciplinary action, but it is leaning in. So maybe Dr. Brown and others, maybe not now, but I just think that because of testimony before the committee is really, really critical, that, and I know that David is always forthright with us, but maybe there needs to be an understanding of why the VDH has strongly discouraged the ordering, prescribing, dispensing of particular drugs that are off-label. I thought that's exactly what we heard in committee wasn't being done. And so that's a bit odd. Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, I struggle with the bill because of its unintended consequences. I like the substitute that the gentlelady was considering. I don't know if there is a substitute. I would like to have it in a form that I could support it. And so, Madam Chair, if there is a substitute, I wonder if we could just consider the substitute and then vote on the bill if a member.
Senator Newman, I would consider that if she bring it back next week, but not today.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Senator Barker.
One thing, this is not the first time we've dealt with, I think, an issue of confusion on some things. The Department of Health and the Department of Health Professions are separate entities. So the Department of Health Professions is the one that deals with the licensure of medical practitioners from, nurses and doctors and all kinds of people. I think it was at one time there were 80-some different professions that we were licensing, and those go through that. We also have a Department of Health, and what we've been handed is something from the Commissioner of the Department of Health, which does not have the ability to be able to take disciplinary actions against the people, any individuals who have violated things. And so
Madam
this
Chair.
letter does not basically contradict the statement that was made by Dr. Brown, who's head of the Department of Health Professions.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that, and George, you're always so helpful. And I thought I was being precise with my questions in subcommittee, and maybe I just wasn't as precise. Madam Chair, if you would not mind, just because I know there's a substitute that I would like to vote on, if you don't mind, this just going by for the week, and then we can come back next week with.
Well, I think that was what I said, is that we'll let it go by for the week.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I did say that. Okay. All in favor of the bill going by for the week, please? Let me first inquire the clerk. Is this going to be an electronic vote?
If you choose for it, ma'am, but it is not necessary.
Okay, all in favor of the bill going by for the week, please designate by saying aye or nay.
Aye.
The bill goes by for the week. Senator Barker.
Madam Chair, there was one other bill that we'd had at our meeting 2 weeks ago within the subcommittee, and then we took it up last week, and then it was continued to this week. And that is Senator Peterson's Senate Bill 375 dealing with optometry. Do you want me to bring that up now, or it's actually in a different section of the pages that are here?
Yeah, you can bring it up. If you'd like to go and we'll do it now, Senator Barker. We'll take it now.
All right. What we had was an extensive consideration. It was the only bill we took up that week, 2 weeks ago, to make sure that we had a full airing of everything. And in the end, the bill was passed that on a 5-3 vote in favor of the bill. I have two amendments for different second and third enactment clauses that would sort of guide the implementation of this. The optometrists who had been opposing this are not attempting to, have not asked to have considered the underlying bill adjusted in any way, but they would like to make sure that there are provisions that are put in place with these two enactment clauses, the second and third enactment clauses, to deal with credentialing the optometrists who will be doing the laser surgery, and to deal with reporting requirements. And I would move that these two amendments be adopted. So.
You've heard the motion. You've heard the motion from Senator Barker on Senate Bill 375.
Madam Chairman,
Senator Cosgrove.
before we adopt these amendments, if I might, we actually have a subject matter expert sitting in front of us, Delegate Roxanne Robinson, who is an optometrist.
Madam Chair.
No,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Wrong bill.
thank you. This bill has been heard in subcommittee, and we will not receive further testimony.
Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson.
I just want to speak to the amendment that's in front of us, and I think everybody realizes that this wagon's going to roll, or at least I guess we'll find out in a minute or two. These two amendments were brought to us by the ophthalmologist, brought to Senator Barker, and I've reviewed, and I think I'm fine with it. It really has to do with self-reporting, and the other one is credentialing, and it actually draws a comparison to the dentist performing oral surgery section of the code. So I think it's consistent with that. So I think these amendments are in favor of patient safety, and I think they make sense.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
I'm operating from what's in the queue, Senator Newman, and then I have Senator Pete, Cosgrove, and Lewis. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Senator, you're going to go first, Senator Newman, and then it's Lewis and Pete.
I just have a quick question to either George or to the patron. Does this only bring in the Board of Optometry, or does this bring in the Board of Medicine or other non-optometrists to
Go ahead. You can go ahead if you want, yeah.
I'm just reading it, but it says it's the Board of Optometry.
It is the Board of Optometry. That's what they're responsible for these types of things.
Okay.
I'm sure there will be, communications and testimony that might be provided in developing these regulations from
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Barker and Senator Newman. Okay, next is Senator Lewis and Senator Peake.
Yes, Madam Chair, just speaking to the underlying bill, really.
Senator Lewis?
I don't think so.
I think so.
I was on the subcommittee, and I supported sending this to Department of Health Professions or somewhere for a study, so they could recommend to us, because as I said in the subcommittee, I feel like on issues like this, we really need an umpire. I've been here for countless scope of practice fights, and we always make policy decisions here as part-time legislators that really, I think now, and going forward, that's going to be my position, need to percolate through a third party who has time and expertise to take a look at it and make a recommendation to it. So
Good
when I vote
recommendation.
against this today, it's not necessarily because I'm against the underlying policy, it's because I'm against the process we're using. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Before we go back to Senator Barker, I have Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was just going to ask, we do have some people in the audience. If we could have them address these proposed amendments that we just got right now.
We have heard these bills in subcommittee, and these two amendments look like they don't have a problem. So I think we need to just keep this, like Senator Peterson, you want to call this committee a wagon. This wagon is going to keep moving. So I would like to have a vote. Yes.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman,
Senator Cosgrove.
I know this wagon needs to keep rolling, but, we do need to have some input on this. I would ask Madam Chairman if she would separate the amendments on voting
Amendment number
separately on
one, we'll give, amendment number one, we'll give 1 minute.
Can I just read it, Madam Chair?
Senator Peterson.
Amendment number 1 says the Board of Optometry shall promulgate regulations establishing criteria for certification of an optometrist to perform certain procedures, which are the peripheral iridotomy, the SLT, and the YAG capsulotomy for medically appropriate and recognized treatment of the human eye. And then it says the regulation shall include provisions for promotion of patient safety, identification and categorization of procedures for issuing certificates, establishment of an application process, establishment of minimum training, education, experience requirements. I'm summarizing here a bit. Development of protocols for proctoring and implementation of a quality assurance review process. And I'd have to check with Senator Barker, but I believe this mirrors 54.1-5409, I think, which is the similar parallel for oral surgery. But this would be typical for this type of certification. So that's number 1.
Okay, anybody want to weigh in on the next?
And next is the board shall promulgate, this is the self-reporting. The board shall promulgate regulations requiring optometrists to annually register and to report certain information as deemed appropriate. And that is just a laundry list of any disciplinary action, malpractice judgment, settlement of malpractice claim, and then in evidence that indicates a reasonable belief that a person licensed may be professionally incompetent or may have engaged in intentional or negligent conduct. Again, this is standard for someone who performs these types of procedures.
Can we go back now? Senator Peterson, you done?
I'm done.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
Senator Sutherland.
may we split the enactment clauses?
I'm
Vote on
sorry.
them separately?
Yes, we can split and vote on them separately. So
Thank
why
you,
don't-
Madam Chair.
Why don't we take the first amendment? I will inquire the clerk, is this going to require a voice vote or electronic vote?
Madam Chair, I think this is a voice vote.
Okay.
Because these are adopting amendments, and we're separating the second enactment from the third enactment.
Okay.
The second
So Senator
amendment-
Barker, you were making the motion that this amendment be agreed to?
As just the second, the first one would be a motion to adopt the second enactment clause, which deals with the criteria for certification.
Okay, that's your motion?
Yes,
And a second?
certification.
All in favor of the first, the motion for the First Amendment as articulated by Senator Barker, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, now we're on, since we separated them, Senator Peake, Senator Barker?
Yeah,
Or
this-
or shall I go back to Senator Peterson? You've already verbalized.
The second one is the self-reporting. The first one is certification, the second one is self-reporting.
Thank you. Senator Barker, recommendation for the amendment?
I move that this amendment be adopted.
It's been moved and properly second that the amendment be adopted. All in favor of the motion as articulated by Senator Barker, please say aye or nay.
Aye.
Noes have the same right? You and Newman or no? Did you report that, clerk? So noted. Thank you. Okay?
All right, thanks.
Madam Chair, now that the bill has been amended, I would move to it be reported as amended.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported as amended. All in favor of that motion need to vote electronically. Clerk, close the roll. Lock.
Ayes 10, noes 4.
Ayes 10, noes 4. The bill is reported with the amendment. You got that? Close the clerk. Clerk, what's the
Yes,
final
ma'am.
vote?
It's reported and re-referred to Finance and
Reported and
Appropriations.
re-referred to finance. Senator Barker, did you have other bills?
No, those are the last ones from subcommittee.
Okay, so we will now move to the committee. Senator Lewis.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. We took up several bills, a number of them dealing with TDOs, temporary detention orders and emergency custody orders, and transport there for them. And the first one we took up was Senate Bill 176, and that was Senator Peake's bill. And it was, we discussed that bill and then determined that it was sufficiently similar to Senator Hanger's 650, which we took up later, that we recommended rolling to the committee, that we roll Senate Bill 176 into Senator Hanger's 650. So that's the motion I would make, Madam Chair.
Talk to him. I'm sorry, Senator.
Senator
Lewis, I was trying to listen to Senator Suline at the same time, and honestly, I tell you, when two people talking to me, both my ears are listening to one person.
So we moved, Senate Bill 176, Madam Chair, was very similar to Senator Hanger's 650. So it was the recommendation of the subcommittee on a unanimous vote that we roll Senator Peake's 176 into Senator Hanger's 650, and that would be my motion.
You heard the motion to incorporate the bills. All in favor of that motion, please say, clerk, do we need to have an electronic vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So all in
Madam
favor?
Chair, I would like to apologize for not getting the first motion. If we could do that, the incorporation needs to be recorded.
Okay, so could we suspend here for a moment and back up to the previous
To the first
amendment
motion, yes, ma'am. My apologies.
that was
It's not-
articulated by Senator Peterson? So all in favor of agreeing to that amendment, please so designate electronically by voice vote. No, he wants to go back, and he didn't record the vote.
SB 176?
He's in my subcommittee, Madam Chair, on 176.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
SB 176. The
Yes.
motion,
The motion was to roll 176 into Senator Hanger's Senate Bill 650.
okay. Give me 1 second.
176, incorporate with Senator Hanger's bill. You need to record that motion now?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
It's SB 176 into SB.
No.
650.
650.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm asking for a recorded vote to incorporate. All in favor of that motion? Vote electronically?
I got you.
Gotcha. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bills are incorporated, and that is Senate Bill 176 and 650 into 176. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, 176 into 650.
All right, Madam Chair.
Senator Lewis.
Next, we took up Senator Newman's Senate Bill 202.
Yes.
And this directed the Secretary of Health and Human Resources and Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security to do a study on the increased use of alternative custody arrangements for individuals subject to a custody or emergency temporary order. And it also listed a group of stakeholders in there. There was no opposition to this legislation, and also there was an amendment which I would move, which adds the Office of Executive Secretary of the Supreme Court to the list of stakeholders to take part in this study. So I would move that amendment.
You've heard the motion on the amendment. It's been seconded. It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment be agreed to. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those have the same right. Thank you. Senator Lewis.
And with the amendment, Madam Chair, it was the unanimous vote of the subcommittee that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 202, and I so move.
It's been moved and second that Senate Bill 202 be recommended for reporting as amended. All in favor, vote electronically. Clerk, close roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported as amended. Thank you.
Next, Madam Chair, we took up Senator Favola's Senate Bill 268. And again, this was another piece of legislation involving emergency custody and temporary detention orders and transportation. So this bill provides that in cases in which transportation of a person subject to an emergency custody order is to be provided by an alternative transportation provider, the primary law enforcement agency that executes the order may transfer custody of that person to the alternative transportation provider immediately upon execution of the order. The bill also provides that in cases in which transportation of a person subject to a temporary detention order is ordered to be provided by an alternative transportation provider, the primary law enforcement agency that executes the order may transfer custody to the alternative transportation provider immediately. And the bill also adds employees of and persons providing services to contract with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services to list individuals who may serve as alternative transportation providers. And there was a substitute to this bill, Madam Chair, and I would so move the substitute.
You've heard a motion on the substitute? And a second for Senator Cosgrove. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Substitute is adopted. Senator Lewis?
And Madam Chair, it was with substitute, it was the unanimous vote of the subcommittee that would recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 268, and I so move.
And that has to be re-referred?
I
Does
did
that
not.
have a statistical impact? I'm asking, yes.
It does?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, it does.
So my motion would be report and re-refer to finance.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance with the substitute. All in favor of that vote, that motion, please designate electronically. Clerk, close roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance with substitute. Senator Lewis.
Madam Chair, next we took up Senate Bill 350, which was Senator Servell's bill regarding health records, and essentially what he was asking for was an audit trail upon request. So this was Senator Servell's second appearance before our subcommittee on 350. The first appearance, we suggested that he coordinate with the stakeholders, including the medical society, to come up with some sort of reasonable compromise on this. And so he came back the following week with a substitute, which made certain changes to the underlying bill.
You're going to move the substitute?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me move the substitute, Madam Chair, yes.
It's been moved properly second that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Back to you, Senator Lewis.
All right. And so the recommendation with the substitute was, well, and let me just tell you, specifically, it was a consensus bill. There was no opposition to it after the substitute was adopted. Provides for an audit trail upon request. It has to be specifically requested in showing changes and deletions in the patient's records. And again, there was no opposition with the substitute, and so it was the unanimous vote, or 3-0 vote of the committee that we recommend reporting, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported as with the substitute. All in favor, please vote electronically. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported.
Next, Madam Chair, we took up Senator Deeds' Senate Bill 373, and at the request of Senator Deeds, it was the recommendation of the unanimous recommendation of the subcommittee that we recommend to the full committee carrying over 373 to the 2023 session, and I so move.
Okay, Senator Lewis, your recommendation is the bill be continued?
Yes, to the 2020, upon his request to the 2023 session.
Okay, without objection. Senator Lewis.
Madam Chair, there's a recorded vote.
For continuance? Yes, okay. All in favor of the bill being continued, please designate it on electronic voting board for Senate Bill 373. Close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be continued. Thank you so much for that reminder. Senator Lewis.
Next, Madam Chair, we took up Senator Boysko's 448, and this was the result of her second appearance before the subcommittee. We encouraged her to get together with some folks, particularly the Hospital Association, to work on this piece of legislation, and she came back with a substitute, which was, again, a piece of consensus legislation after working with some of the stakeholders, and was our recommendation. First, I would move the substitute, Madam Chair.
It's been moved. Second, that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Senator Lewis, was your motion to recommend continuing
No.
on this one as well? Or?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay.
We've got, and so what this bill does, and again, now it's with the substitutes consensus piece of legislation, I believe Senator Donovan may have helped work on that as well. Requires hospitals to develop and implement written policies and procedures related to the screening and treatment of victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And so with the substitute, it was our recommendation on a unanimous vote that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 448, and I so move.
It's been moved and second that Senate Bill 448 be reported with the substitute. All in favor, electronically, please. Clerk, close roll.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Ayes 13, no zero. The bill will be reported with the substitute. Senator Lewis.
Next, we took up Senator Newman's 593, Madam Chair, and this was a piece of legislation, again, dealing with transportation emergency detention orders, temporary detention orders. This allows auxiliary police officers with the third level of auxiliary police officers to participate as alternative transportation providers for emergency custody orders and temporary detention orders. There was an amendment, I believe, yes, there were some technical amendments to remove the Community Services Board language and add a missing period, Madam Chair, so I would move the amendments.
Is the vote properly second? The motion is to re-refer?
No, to adopt the technical amendments.
Okay, so I'm looking
and
at
remove
re-refer on the
Community
board.
My apologies, ma'am. That's just an indication to let us know that it's got to go to
Thank you.
finance.
Senator Lewis,
I put
your
those in
motion?
prior.
Is to adopt the amendments, Madam Chair.
The motion is to adopt the amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Senator Lewis?
And did I understand this has to go to finance? Okay. And I would point out Senator Newman, I believe, has a 20
Yes,
million.
it does. We're seeing the Senate Bill 593.
Yep.
Does have fiscal impact and does have to be re-referred to Senate
I think
Finance.
Senator Newman's got a $20 million amendment up there in finance to deal with this. Yeah. The bill also, and I'm sorry, Madam Chair, the bill also directs Department of Criminal Justice to establish compulsory minimum training standards for auxiliary police officers who are called into service solely for the purpose of executing these emergency custody orders and providing transportation. So with that, Madam Chair, with the amendments, it is our recommendation on a 4-0 vote that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 593, and I so move.
It's been moved and
Oh, I'm
properly
sorry.
seconded that
And going to finance.
the bill be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion. This is an electronic vote. Thank you. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will report and be re-referred to Senate Finance with amendments. Thank you. Senator Lewis.
And next, we took up Senator Morrissey's Senate Bill 641, and this deals with establishing the Early Psychosis Intervention and Coordinated Specialty Care Program Advisory Board for the purpose of assisting the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services in expanding the provision of high-quality, evidence-based early psychosis and mood disorder detection and intervention services. And of course, there was testimony, Madam Chair, about the onset of psychosis and mental disorders in young people and the importance of early diagnosis, and that was the thrust of his bill. There is an amendment, Madam Chair, that was offered that clarifies that the psychologist on the advisory board must be a licensed clinical psychologist, and I would so move that amendment.
Good amendment. And second? It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment be agreed to. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Senator Lewis?
And
your
with the amendment,
recommendation?
Madam Chair, was the recommendation on a 5-0 vote that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 641 as amended, and I so move.
Yes, that one does need to go to finance. I got to check off right here. Okay, Senator Lewis?
And go to finance,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Senate Bill 641 will be reported and be referred to Senate Finance. All in favor? It is an electronic vote.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported and be referred to Senate Finance with the amendment. Senator Lewis.
And next, we took up Senator Hanger's Senate Bill 650. This was the bill that we had incorporated Senator Peake's 178 into. And this bill, again, Madam Chair, deals with emergency custody and temporary detention orders and acceptance of custody for those. There was a substitute offered by Senator Hanger, and I would move the substitute.
Substitute has been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Senator Lewis.
This provides for the transfer of law enforcement officers to may transfer folks for emergency custody orders, temporary detention orders to the alternative transportation providers, and provides that may be transported and required that may be to be licensed to provide the level of security necessary to provide both the person and others from harm, and actually capable of providing the level of security to protect the person and others from harm, and accept custody of every person transported to such provider for evaluation by law enforcement. With the substitute, Madam Chair, it is the recommendation of the subcommittee to the full committee by a vote of 4-0 that we report Senate Bill 650.
And 178. No, it's 650. Yes, go ahead.
It was incorporated, 178, but it was
Yes,
incorporated. Yes,
it's
ma'am.
incorporated. You've heard the motion?
This also has to go to finance, Madam Chair.
Yes.
And to finance.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill will be reported and referred to Senate Finance. This is an electronic vote. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill will be reported and referred to Senate Finance. Thank you. Senator Lewis.
All right, Madam Chair. Next, we took up Senator Deeds 682. There was some concern at the outset, and again, this deals with temporary detention, alternative custody orders. There was some concern at the outset by law enforcement that it would perhaps, in its original form, provide some undue burdens, which we've all heard about, on law enforcement. So the Sheriff's Association came up with an amendment which Senator Deeds acquiesced to, or which essentially was a substitute, and I would so move that substitute.
You've heard the motion on the substitute? And second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Yep. And so
It
with
is
the,
adopted. Senator Lewis.
with the substitute, Madam Chair, it was the unanimous recommendation of the subcommittee that we recommend reporting 682, and I so move.
We've heard the motion. And the second, that Senate Bill 682 be reported with the substitute. All in favor, this is an electronic vote. Close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill is reported with the substitute. Thank you. Senator Lewis.
All right, Madam Chair, next we took up Senator Deeds' 714. And yes, Madam Chair, this allows for voluntary mental health check-in as an option as part of the comprehensive crisis system. And it was the unanimous vote, and directs the Department of Health and Behavioral Services to implement a voluntary mental health check-in as part of that crisis system. And so it was the unanimous vote of the subcommittee that we recommend reporting to the full committee, reporting of Senate Bill 714, and I so move.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported, and it does not appear to be any fiscal impact. All in favor of that motion, please vote electronically. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. Thank you. Senator Lewis.
Next, Madam Chair, and finally, we took up Senator Donovan's 750, which is an ambitious piece of legislation which seeks to create a behavioral health hospital authority, and which would be an independent political subdivision of the Commonwealth in order to control the delivery, finance, and utilization and health outcomes of public acute inpatient psychiatric services in the Commonwealth. Now, Senator Donovan represented to us several elements of a substitute that she wanted to introduce, and I think she's got that here today. And I would say, Madam Chair, that the reason we advanced it without keeping it in the committee is obviously there are going to be some fiscal implications that will require it to go to finance. So that's why we kicked it up to full committee with the understanding that she would provide us with this substitute, and I will let her speak to the substitute, Madam Chair.
Senator Donovan, I will recognize you. And also, this has fiscal impact, so with whatever the conclusion of your, at the conclusion of your remarks, we want to make sure that the bill be re-referred to Senate Finance.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. And I'm happy to report that this takes a extremely long bill and converts it to less than 2 pages, or just 2 pages. Madam Chairman, the idea here is that we are in crises with our behavioral health network. We are making an attempt to transfer to a continuum of inpatient and outpatient, but we're really struggling, and that's evidenced by our 102% occupancy rate of our hospitals that are only 75% staffed. And we have done away for the summer with the bed of last resort, requiring our private hospitals, without really any warning, to take 90% of the TDOs. Even now, we do not have restored bed of last resort. We only have one admission for one discharge. And Madam Chairman, we have the DOJ settlement that is still pending, and we need to resolve. So this bill is now not language directing us to develop an authority, which is one idea, but it's language that seeks to move the hospital system that we have out of the agency that it exists in. Agencies really inhibit the ability for these hospitals to work as hospitals. They are subject to procurement requirements and many other regulations of an agency. They have far less flexibility and nimbleness in recruiting and retaining staff, and of even being able to reassert their CMS certification, so that instead of paying 100%, Virginia is paying maybe 50% of a lot of these costs. And so, Madam Chairman, the substitute before you empowers the HHR Secretariat to look at moving those hospitals out of the agency, but not directing what kind of structure needs to exist. We had a suggestion by Governor Kane in 2008 that there be a public-private partnership. An authority is another idea, but in any case, Madam Chairman, there are great models across the country that would allow us to restructure, create a better continuity of the community services to the inpatient services, maybe look at a regional approach across Virginia, and it gives us a chance to act now. So as we respond to concerns from DOJ, we can show that we are actively demonstrating creative innovation to make this work for Virginia. That, Madam Chairman, with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Back to the chairman of the subcommittee. No, what, she's already explained
Okay.
about the Health Hospital Authority.
Yes,
I do move the substitute, Madam
Yes.
Chairman, that is before us today.
Okay,
Second.
you heard a motion on the substitute
and second.
and a second. So all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And so, Madam Chair, having, Senator Donovan having represented what would be the concepts embodied in the substitute, which she has given to us today, it was the committee's recommendation that we recommend reporting 5-0, and I so move.
Very good.
I'm sorry, go to finance. Go to
Yes.
finance.
You've heard the motion. And second, that the bill be reported and be referred to Senate Finance with a substitute. All in favor of that motion, that it is an electronic vote. Thank you. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 14, no zero, abstentions 1.
Ayes 14, no zero, abstentions 1. The bill will be reported and be referred to Senate Finance with a substitute.
Madam Chair,
Senator Peterson.
Senate Bill 375, the optometry bill, the motion apparently that was made, I didn't catch this, was to report and refer to finance, and I don't think finance had requested it, so I don't know if we need to reconsider that or that can just be corrected on the record.
Did we ask this to go to finance? I don't
No.
think so. Nope.
I just asked the clerk, was it referred to finance or what's the ruling?
That bill was referred to finance.
Okay,
Okay,
then we,
in that case, I'd move to reconsider that vote.
okay, there's a motion for the vote to be reconsidered.
Okay.
Not everything.
Okay, on reconsideration? We need an electronic vote, Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
Yes, all in
Madam Chair,
favor of
we do.
reconsideration, please vote electronically.
Reconsideration.
Thank you.
Senator Howard? Well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
And then,
Yes, I did.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Oh, wait a minute, Clerk, do you want to strike the board, or you just want to add my yes vote?
I can add your yes vote now.
Thank you. Okay.
all right, and Madam Chair, now that the bill's back before us, I would once again move to report as amended.
Yes, okay. The motion is that Senate Bill 375 be, well, we've already voted on reconsideration, that the vote be,
Report
be
as amended.
reported and yeah.
No,
as- just be
reported as
reported.
amended.
Just reported,
As amended.
yes,
Yep, thanks.
that's it.
Ayes 11, noes 4.
Ayes 11, noes 4. The bill is reported with the amendment. You happy, Bo? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Senator Lewis, does that complete your report?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, it does.
Okay, now that we've gotten the subcommittee reports behind us, I want to thank the subcommittee chairs. You have done great work to help facilitate movement of this wagon, as Senator Peterson want to refer to it. So now we will go back to the calendar, and I'm going to go in order. First bill is Senate Bill 125, and the patron is Senator Obenchain. If he's not here, I'm going to recognize the patrons that I see in the audience. And Senator McClellan, I've been seeing you all morning, so I think I want you up now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 3.
And I have a queue here. I have, after you, Senator McClellan, I have Senator Eben, Obenchain, Favola, Chase, and D. Steph, in that order.
Okay.
Eben, Obenchain, Favola, Chase, and D. Steph. I will remind you if you don't remember your place in line.
All right, so I will take them in bill order. The first one is Senate Bill 481, and I have a substitute.
Second.
Make sure I have the right one.
Senator McClellan,
Yes.
Madam-
we'll hear from the clerk.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure if you heard, but there was a motion and a second on this side.
I'm sorry.
There was a motion
Oh,
and
I'm
a second.
sorry. You know, I tell you what, I listen with 2 ears. So when somebody's talking to me, I drown everybody else out. So I'm sorry I did not hear you. But there's been a motion to approve the substitute. All in favor of that motion? Aye. Thank you. Senator McClellan.
Okay, this is one of the recommendations of the school commission on, the Commission on School Construction and Modernization. What the substitute does is encourage local governments and school boards to enter into collaborative agreements to set aside in a separate fund any amount that was appropriated to the school board that to be used for school maintenance, renovation, construction, but wasn't expended in that year. Under the law, absent such agreement, that money reverts back to the locality's general fund. As the bill was originally written, it was more of a stick to get the localities to do this. Now, the substitute, it's a little bit more of a carrot. There's a separate bill that will create a school construction and modernization fund that will have grant programs, and one of the ideas is that those school divisions that do enter in these collaborations, you know, may have preferences for grants, but that's a separate bill. But the idea here is let's get the localities to cooperate with the school board to set aside funds for construction, maintenance, and renovation.
Very good. Questions of the patron by any member of the committee?
Move to report.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the bill be reported, and clerk,
I believe this has to go to finance as well, Madam Chair.
I'm looking to see if there's a fiscal impact on.
I don't think there
Madam
is.
Chair.
Senator Howard, do we have fiscal impact on this bill?
Well,
Did you ask for it?
I don't see it on the list.
Madam Chair, all these bills were asked to be put on the docket today so that they could go to finance. That report got to us before that, yes. So all of these except for Senator Lucas's and Senator Peterson's that you all already heard
Sure.
will be going to finance.
Thank you. Senator McClellan, your bill will be referred to Senate Finance.
That's
All
fine.
in favor of the motion that the bill be reported and with the substitute and re-referred to Senate Finance, please vote electronically. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. Thank you, Senator McClellan.
All right, the second one is Senate Bill 484, which we affectionately call the Cover All Kids Bill. There are currently about 96,000 children in Virginia who don't have health insurance, most of whom are immigrant children. And there was a work group convened by language in the budget last year to look at ways to provide coverage to close this insurance gap. And so this bill creates a comprehensive children's health care coverage program, which is similar to famous for, to cover these children.
Senator McClellan, motion?
Madam Chair.
Would we need a motion? Senator Newman?
Who's going to pay and how much is it?
There is a budget amendment put in to cover the program. It would be general funds, I believe.
I can't
But
find
this-
the FIS.
Okay.
Senator Newman?
I just can't find the fiscal on this. I'm looking at the internet, but I don't see it. It's got to be very expensive, though.
If you give me 1 second, I can pull up the budget amendment that I put in, but it's got to go to finance for that very reason.
Okay.
Yes, this bill is going to Senate Finance because it does have fiscal impact. As a matter of fact, just to repeat, all of the bills in this section will be going to Senate Finance.
Madam Chair, just a quick one.
Senator Newman?
So, Jennifer, this will be, if we do this, the state is going to pay
Yes.
these premiums, is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second that the bill be reported and be referred to Senate Finance. All in favor, vote electronically. Thank you. Senator McClellan, do you have another bill? The
Ayes
bill-
10, noes 4.
Ayes 10, noes 4.
Excuse me, my apologies. Ayes 10, noes 5.
Ayes 10, noes 5. The bill will be reported and be referred to Senate Finance.
I do, and this is my annual favorite.
Is that 490?
Yes.
Yes, that's your perennial.
Yes, this is the bill to implement the Board of Education's recommended standards of quality, which were updated in October. It's pretty self-explanatory, but this is the bare minimum that the Board of Education says we need to provide to every child in Virginia to have a free, high-quality public education. We made progress last year on increasing the standard for school counselors, behavioral health specialists, nurses, and social workers. But this will go farther to help meet all of their needs. I can go into detail if you want me to, but we really have got to finally fund our schools and meet the needs of our students that our experts tell us we need to do.
Is there motion, would there be questions from any member of the committee or for the patron?
Madam Chair,
Senator Newman?
I mean, just how much is this? Is this 400 million or 500 million? What is the?
I put in a budget amendment by memory. I think it's about 500 a year.
Between 5 and 6. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, you've had the motion?
Madam Chair,
Senator Peterson?
I do have to ask, would you agree with me that in-person education is really a threshold for delivering all these services?
Madam Chair, I would say I do. I would say, as I was listening to the debate this morning, I had flashbacks to when I was in the House and Republicans were pushing virtual school and Democrats were saying we need to be in the schools. As a parent of 2 children in the schools, I think they need to be in the schools. I also think we need to give our schools the flexibility to handle situations where parents want virtual options and to handle when we have highly contagious pandemics. But I do think that the schools should be in person.
Madam Chairman, question?
Okay, Senator Peterson, you got your question, but that doesn't, oh, you didn't get your answer?
I did get my answer.
Okay, so, but that doesn't add to the vote. Okay, Senator Donovan?
Well, it has nothing to do with this bill, but I'm happy to talk about it as long as he wants to.
I just like clarification about the Republicans pushing for virtual and the Democrats were defending in person. I mean, it's like a whole political gauntlet thrown out. At
Yeah,
what point in
so-
time were the Republicans pushing
We're not
for
gonna have
virtual
any,
education?
we're not gonna have this ongoing debate like
When I
that.
was in the House, I was on the Education Committee my entire time, my entire 11 years. And I believe it was Delegate Bell from Stanton, Dickie Bell, every year had virtual school legislation. And the debate at the time, and I opposed his bills, saying that it was important for students to be in school. So I stand by my statement. If you would like to discuss my 11 years in the House on that committee having this debate, I'm happy to do that.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Donovan?
Just a follow-up is that permissive virtual education being accessible in Virginia, as I carried for 6 years, would have prepared us to be better ready for COVID when we had it, and that would have been good legislation to pass.
Madam Chair, again, I'm talking
Sen-
about
Sen-
legislation from
After
Delegate
Senator
Vicky Bell.
McClellan responds to this, we're not going to have any ongoing debate, then we're going to go and move to the vote. Senator McClellan?
I'm referring to legislation carried in the House by Delegate Vicky Bell that I had concerns with. I stand by my statement. As a parent of 2 children in public schools, I have made it very clear. I think that in-person education is best. I also think there needs to be flexibility to deal with those situations where for individual students or to deal with contagious diseases, virtual options need to be available.
Okay, I think Senator Peterson got his question. The students need to be in school in order to access these services, but it's just not an extra vote. Okay, Senator, did I get a motion on this bill? I think I got a motion and a second, that the bill be reported, and of course, based on this section, all bills have to be re-referred to Senate Finance, so I would like for the committee to vote and have this bill re-referred to Senate Finance. Clerk, close roll.
Ayes 10, noes 4.
Ayes 10, noes 4, the bill will be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
and I
Senator
look forward
McClellan.
to further
Looking at my cue,
conversation.
I shall remind you that the next speaker is, the next patron is going to be Senator Eben, and following Senator Eben will be Obenshane. Oh, and when we get to Favola's bill is going to go by for the week, or by for the day.
Good morning.
Okay, Senator Eben.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm back again with SB 285, dealing with racism and bullying in high school sports. I have a new substitute for SB 285 that trims it down a bit.
Can we get a motion on the substitute? It's been moved and seconded that the substitute be adopted. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Senator Adams.
Thank you. So the difference with the substitute is, first, this is a Section 1 bill. It doesn't go into the code. Second, it removes parents from this bill. The language that's most important to me is in Section B and C, and that remains unchanged. Basically, that the schools shall ensure that each student who participates in the high school interscholastic athletics and each individual who's a coach and the officials are all trained with and aware of the consequences for the actions of what's referred to in Section A as bullying and the use of racially and ethnically insensitive expressions. This, to remind the committee, came from not one, but a series of repeated incidences with players using the M-word and, at least in one case, spitting on other players. Just want kids to know what the consequences are, want the coaches and the referees trained in this so that we all know what's involved and hopefully try and prevent some of these incidents in the future.
Questions of the patrons?
Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson, I knew it would be you.
It would be me. And I want to thank Senator Eben. He has been more than forthcoming and flexible. And I've talked with VHSL, and obviously I'm very familiar with the coaching community and have children that participated in sports. I'm going to take a pretty hard line, and we just defeated the transgender bill because, again, I don't think we should be involved in VHSL and how they run high school athletics. You know, scholastic athletics, there were a lot of decisions made. For example, they canceled all of fall sports in the fall of 2020. And as a parent of a young man who didn't get to participate, I wanted to intervene. And we didn't intervene because, again, we don't intervene in scholastic sports. So I'm going to move to pass this bill by indefinitely. I'm going to second with Senator Lewis. And I just, again, we're going to have other bills coming over dealing with scholastic sports. And again, I'm going to be very firm on this. We were not going to get involved as a legislature telling people how to coach the kids or, you know, how they should be trained. We're going to leave that to the coaches. And I'm not here for, that's the motion I'm going to make.
Before we move on to motion, Senator Howell?
I would hope we would vote against this motion. This is a really important bill, and it has been pretty much emasculated already, but nonetheless, we have had some very serious incidences up in Northern Virginia, and I imagine elsewhere in the Commonwealth, of, as the senator said, horrible behavior, using the N-word, spitting on opponents. Something has to be done. A message needs to be sent to not only the students, but their parents, who are often enablers, that this is totally unacceptable.
Thank you, Senator Howard.
Madam
Statement from
Chair.
any other member of the committee? Senator Donovan.
Madam Chairman, I want to associate myself with the comments from Senator Howell. However, I believe that the way to do that hard line is to use the organization that oversees athletics now, who is already implementing this. And so it's always so hard when you have a bill like this, because I 100% agree with the intent. I just think that the governing body is the one that should be making the decision and having the hard line instead of everything having to be legislated.
Madam Chair?
Senator Eben.
If I might wrap up, it's true that the organization which Senator Suderline is on the board of has taken some steps to do some optional webinars and rules. But what I want to do is, it's not so much Section A isn't what's important. What's important is Section B and C, that the students, the coaches, and the officials know the rules and make use of the materials that VHSL has done with their ad hoc committee. So if this bill does progress from this committee, I intend to trim Section A further, and with less direction of VHSL and more direction to back up VHSL and what they are doing.
Very good. Okay, you heard the motion.
Madam Chair, substitute motion.
Substitute motion by Senator Hashmi.
A move to recommend reporting.
It's been recommended and second that the bill be reported. All in favor of the substitute motion, please vote electronically. And this
Madam
motion
Chair.
is that the bill will be reported and re-referred with the substitute finance.
Ayes 7, noes 8.
Ayes 7, noes 8.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, Senator Eben. Okay. Okay, in queue. Senator Obenshain, you're next.
Thank you. I think I've got 30 flights of steps in so far today. Madam Chairman, members of the committee, I have Senate Bill 125. This is the regional charter schools bill. Those of you who have been here for more than 3 or 4 years know that I have been before this committee since about 2005, advocating for opening our doors in Virginia a little bit wider for charter schools. This is not a bill that is partisan. This is a bill that really reflects successful ventures all over the country. And you know, I've looked for a way to get charter schools into Virginia in a way that at least helps some of the school divisions that are in the greatest need. We have a substitute that I would ask somebody to get.
Could you please distribute the substitute?
This.
Okay, well, is the substitute being distributed? Yeah, okay. Okay, we need to adopt the substitute. All in favor of adopting the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Senator Obenshain.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I have endeavored to secure passage of broad charter schools legislation, and this is a small subset of that broader effort. This is a regional charter school initiative that is focused on the school divisions that are in the greatest need, the school divisions that are in the bottom quartile of the Commonwealth of Virginia in math and English. What this bill does is it allows the creation of regional school divisions. It is, of course, you know, Article 8, Section 7 of the Constitution vests control over the education of children within a division in the hands of that division. Divisions are statutorily created, and this bill gives the Department of Education the ability to create school divisions that meet the statutory criteria laid out in this section. These districts have to meet the criteria of being in the bottom quartile of the state in testing for math and English. They have to be more than 2 underlying school divisions. This is not a division of divisions or a consolidation. This is a creation of charter school districts that will be able to drop a lifeline to children and families in these areas where children are just, frankly, in some school divisions, just being ruined by inadequate education. This is not going to force anybody to go to those schools. This is going to provide an opportunity for families to make this choice should they choose to do so. It also allows for school divisions, existing school divisions, to retain all of the funding for every child that they continue to educate. The state per capita funding for a child that goes into the charter school will follow that child, but not the local funding. The local funding stays with the existing school division. Madam Chairman, members of the committee, I don't want to trespass too greatly upon the committee's time, but I do have a number of people here who would like to address the committee, including
Senator
the
Obenshain.
Secretary of Education.
Senator Obenshain, these bills were not heard in subcommittee, so we will hear testimony. But in the interest of time, I'm going to have to designate 3 minutes for each side. So if you will organize your speakers.
If you are in the Zoom room and would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically now.
Speakers are in the queue, ready to step up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. Thank you, Senator Obenshain.
Good morning, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. I'm Amy Gadara, Governor Youngkin's designee for Secretary of Education, and we very much support this bill. This is critical to everything that I've come before you before and talked about ensuring excellence and opportunity for every single one of our students in Virginia. As Senator Obenshain said, this expands opportunity to the children in the Commonwealth that need it the most. These are database decisions. We know which children are not being served, and they are caught in failing schools, and generation after generation, we have provided no option for these children to have access to quality education. As the Senator said, we will make sure that these are schools that are built with input from stakeholders. These are schools that will have to put out a plan about how they will be tailored to meet the needs of these students who right now are in failing schools. They will need to set performance metrics, and they will be held accountable for making those, getting those results. And this is what's so important. These are actually schools that are designed to meet the needs of the kids that we have not met their needs before, and we are going to hold these schools accountable in ways that we have not been able to hold accountable the schools that they now are in today. Many of you asked me in conversations, what are we going to do to help those students that are most disadvantaged, our Black and brown kids that we've been failing? This is a way that we can do that, and we can do it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair.
Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could.
Can you stop the clock?
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just had a question for the Secretary. Would appreciate some clarification. So if I'm reading the bill correctly, these regional boards would have the power to approve the charter schools, but am I correct that the board members, there would be 8 board members appointed by the school of the State Board of Education and 1 member each appointed by the localities? In that kind of a structure, then, don't the localities, aren't they always then going to have minority power? They would not be in a position to reject a charter school in the way that right now the local government has the ability to approve or not approve charter schools, but under a regional construct, they would have minority voting power, and they would may perhaps then be outnumbered by the other board members who would be appointed by the state government. And so if you could just address the disparity in the voice of the locality on this particular board.
If I can address that question, it's my bill, and I'm more than happy to have the Secretary speak to it too, but all of the members of the regional board are local members. These are not members from outside of the area. These are local members of the board. And the reason we have this is that the experience around the country is that I don't have the exact percentage at my fingertips, but the vast majority of charter schools in America are in states where there are multiple authorizers. The number of charter schools in states where there is one authorizer is infinitesimally smaller. So the experience is that that there is a correlation between having multiple authorizers and the number of charter schools. We have one authorizer in Virginia now, and the number of charter schools, I believe it's 9 in Virginia. 7 in Virginia. So our goal is to open the doors to charter schools, and that is creating a second authorizer is one of the means, while retaining local control.
Madam Chair.
Something to add?
I'm in queue, Senator
sorry.
Locke and Senator Peterson.
My question, I'm not sure who can answer it. I kept hearing the phrase failing schools, and that children would be drawn from failing schools. Okay, as these kids are being drawn from these failing schools, what happens to that failing school?
Well,
will that school be allowed to continue to fail? So what resources are going to be given to that school where these children are being drawn? So is it going to continue to just be allowed to fail?
Well, number one, our goal is to raise water level for all schools. And our experience, the experience around the country is that, quite frankly, you've got to drop a lifeline into these schools. We're not talking about abandoning the schools that are not succeeding in providing a path to success for their kids, but we're trying to give an outlet, and while also continuing to improve the quality of education for the kids left behind. Moreover, these schools are not, the charter school district doesn't just take from public school 1, okay, from elementary school John Smith. It takes from, it is open for admission to students from across the charter district. So if one charter school opens in a 2-county or 3-county area, you may wind up having 200 kids who are allowed to enter. We're not talking about decimating the population of any single school. We hope that all of the schools are going to improve as a consequence. Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, Senator, just to reinforce that, this administration will not give up on any school, and we will not give up on any child. But what we're saying is this is a yes and. We cannot lose another generation by waiting to fix everything, but we're going to do everything possible to ensure that every school is supported, that we're investing in teachers, we're investing in training, we're investing in the best curriculum, all of those things. And yet this is also a way to ensure that if we can help students now and have innovation and involve more people and expand more opportunities, we can do both of these things. But we can't wait to have everything fixed at the same time. We need to also provide an outlet in a way that also provides accountability to ensure that we're serving these children, especially the ones that right now we know year after year are not being served by the schools that they're in right now.
Senator Obenshain, with that question, I think we're going to open up this queue, and so we're going to have to suspend the clock momentarily because I have in queue in this order Peterson, Locke, Donovan, and Newman. That's the order that they're appearing in my queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to take that as an invitation.
And Lewis.
Invitation.
And it's growing.
Okay,
And
invitation.
we're not going to get out of here.
Okay. An invitation to ask a question to my colleague. I'm probably a little bit more open to charter schools than some folks, but here's the issue, and Senator Obenshain, I'll put it to you plainly. If I look at Article 8, Section 6 of the state, Section 7 of the state constitution, it says the supervision of schools in each school division shall be best vested in a school board. to be composed of members selected in the manner for the term possessing the qualifications and to the number provided by law. Now, that's Section 7. That's the Constitution. The Virginia Supreme Court, actually the Fourth Circuit, has also said the power to operate, maintain, and supervise public schools in Virginia is and has always been within the exclusive jurisdiction of the local school boards and not within the jurisdiction of the State Board of Education. That's the Fourth Circuit. And then Virginia Supreme Court in 1989, Russell County School Board versus Anderson says no statutory enactment can take away the board's power to supervise. So,
Yes, sir.
I want to be flexible here.
Yes, sir.
But help me get past this constitutional provision.
Happily. The Constitution clearly says that the local school divisions control the education in the state. School divisions are established by statute. And if you look at 22.1-25, that is the code provision that establishes the means for setting school divisions, school boards. It provides for, it allows a variety of ways. Fairfax, for example, I think you have one school division for 2 political jurisdictions,
right?
The city and the county. That is the case in a number of different areas. It could, by statute, provide for one school division for each of those jurisdictions. This sets forth it amends that section 22.1-25 to add section 4, which provides for the creation of regional charter school divisions. This is a school division that complies with the Constitution of Virginia. It is not a division of a division. It's not a consolidation. It is the establishment of a charter school division. The State Board of Education has no role in running that, no role in granting charter applications or revoking charters. It simply appoints the 8 school board members who must be local. And of course, as you remember, there's no prohibition upon appointment of school board members. Some jurisdictions have local governments still appointing school board members in those jurisdictions.
In queue, Senator Peterson, Donovan, Newman, and Lewis. Peterson, you're out. Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to follow up on a couple of issues. One is that there's very good evidence to show that schools from which charter students come, actually, the students in those schools do better, as do the charter school students. And some of that is reflected in the concept of smaller classrooms. And, Madam Chairman, I've listened to this committee for 7 years. I know the hearts and minds of everybody on this committee. We want every child in Virginia to do better. There's an incredible unfairness in how our schools are now attributed, and that is by zip code. And there are Virginians who cannot choose where they live. And they end up going to the schools that are the schools that have the least likelihood of helping them access the education that they need. Education reduces your chronic illness. It increases your opportunity for everything in America, every opportunity. And so, having said that, this is a way that is constitutional from reading this and looking at the complications we've had in the past for us to give kids a way to get an education that allows them to access the American dream and overcome where they might have to live. I really hope this committee will support this.
Before we move further, I've been on this committee for 30 years. And we've been advocating for funding to decrease class sizes ever since I've been here. Mm-hmm. The problem has been a lack of funding and unwillingness to do that. So, when I hear people say this is all about reducing class sizes, well, I've been here for 30 sessions, and I've not heard a whole lot of argument or testimony for reducing class sizes. So, you know, I find that real strange now. Senator Obenshain. Go back to Senator Lewis and then, Senator Newman, then Senator Lewis.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, I'm going to kind of go down through that concern. Let me go down through the math, right? So you're going to, if one child leaves, a portion of the money is going to be left with the local school division. So let's go through the math, because I think that Senator Lucas and Senator Locke bring up a good point. Are we going to allow these schools to fail if people leave? But I think what your substitute does is actually says, if someone leaves, leave more of the money in that school, so the per capita rate per student is actually going to go way up from where they leave from, and it's only a portion of the money that's going to follow. Am I correct? Help me with the math there.
You are correct. The state money follows the child, the local money stays. So per child, there is more money per capita left in the local school division than before the charter school was established.
So, Madam Chair, follow-up question. So Mark, what you're saying, let's say a school division has a composite index of 50%, right? And the composite index on $12,000 is $6,000. So every child that leaves, if you will, goes into the charter school, hopefully getting served by an alternative method that helps them, there's going to be another $6,000, an empty seat, but $6,000 to be spread among all the other divisions. Is that?
Madam Chairman, Senator Newman, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Obenshain, we're going to move to the next two people in this, and three people in this queue. I have
Lynn?
Lewis, Cosgrove, and Saslaw, and that's the order that they appear in the queue. Now, I just want to make sure that everybody understands, we're not going to get through all of these bills. No. And what's going to happen when the time runs out, all these bills, without any more word added to it, will all go to finance, just as they are.
Oh, no.
Yes, ma'am, every last one of them.
Nope. Then they will all fail in finance.
If we don't move this wagon that Senator Peterson has referred to it as, if we don't get these bills out of here by the time it's time to go to session, you want me to get on the roll? I can get on the roll, but we're not going to do it in the rate that we're going. Senator Obenshain, you want to speed this wagon up?
I feel the pain because I had to leave my proxy upstairs in Commerce and Labor with Senator Suravel.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, all right.
Don't worry, I left instructions.
Let's go back to Q before we turn the clock back on. Saslaw, Lewis and Saslaw, sorry.
Madam Chair, two quick questions. First of all, Senator Obenshain, the first iteration of the bill had as part of the criteria that one or more of the schools in the underlying school division would have been denied accreditation status for 2 out of the past 3 years. And you've changed that in the substitute. I just wonder if you could speak to the rationale.
I think Ms. Schultz, Deputy Secretary, is probably better suited to speak to the criteria than I am.
So thank you for the opportunity to answer the question. Previously, it was done on an accreditation status, but in order to make it actually a little bit more relevant, we took the grades 3 through 8 math and English scores in the bottom quartile. However, if you take the same number of school divisions, and it was 27 in total to which that standard applies, those are also in the same accreditation status, both for 2018-19 and 2019-20. So.
And second, actually, Madam Chair, this is sort of an observation which invites a comment, and that is I notice on the creating the school boards for the charter schools, it seems to me that it's a little light on appointments by the localities and a little top-heavy on appointments by the state board. So I don't know if you...
You want to move to amend it to add?
I will too.
All right. Sure.
That's my comment.
Oh, okay, good. Glad you like it. Okay.
Or reduce the state board.
Yeah.
I could go with either. I don't...
I
just
can't
think
either.
Senator
I
Lewis,
can
can
too.
you? We're not gonna get to your bill, I can promise you that. Senator Lewis.
That's all the questions I have, and if somebody does want to offer an amendment, it was an observation. I think the locality's input on the construction of the board or the membership on the board is a little light.
I would suggest reducing the state board appointees to 5 or 6 then. And
I'll make that motion. as an amendment.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Let me ask the clerk, is this gonna require voice or electronic? Or do we know?
Madam Chair, for an amendment, it's just a voice vote unless you choose for it to be recorded.
I think I want to record a vote on this one. Yeah, he's gonna-
Reduce it to
The amendment is to
5?
reduce the number of members on the board to 5.
No, the state board appointees to 5.
That's what I'm saying, the state.
From 8.
Right, from 8 to 5. That is the motion. Senator Lewis, can you repeat that motion so that everybody clearly understands what it is we're about to do?
Yeah, we are reducing the State Board of Education appointees to the Charter School Board from 8 to 5, Madam Chair.
You've heard the motion, and it's been second. All in favor of that motion, I want an electronic vote. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. That amendment has been adopted. Now, before we go further, I want to call on Senator Saslaw. Senator Lewis, you still in queue?
Mark, you remarked that the state money follows the student, the local money stays where it is. Let's say you're one of the rural counties or municipalities in this state. And let's say, and there's a ton of them, that your composite index number is, say 70-30, and we've got some that are, we got more than some, we got quite a few that are 80-20. So you lose that, you're going to lose 80%. Let's say if you're an 80-20 or a 70-30, you'll lose 70% of what that state money was, and you're left with 30. Now, let's suppose you're Fairfax County and you're 28-72. Fairfax, percentage-wise, it comes out a lot better than the rural area. On top of that, and this is an important point, in Fairfax County, if we raise the real estate tax 1 penny, we bring in $20-some million. That rural area, they don't have that. They'd have to almost raise it $1 or $2 to even get near that, and it'd be doubtful if they could even do that. I mean, so essentially, if you come from an area with a low, index or a high composite index number, you're screwed by this bill. Totally screwed.
Well, Senator Saslaw, I mean, with due respect, I have great respect for you, and I hope you do for me.
I do.
I'm very sensitive to that. I have one of those jurisdictions in the district that I represent, in Rappahannock County. And you're right, there are a handful of jurisdictions around Virginia that would suffer if they were covered by this, but they're not. They're not even covered by this. I'm very sensitive to that. If I had my choice, you know me, I'd throw the door open statewide for every school division in Virginia to be eligible for participation in this. But I've got...
Why don't you?
I've acquired a bit of a practical bent over 18 years.
I understand.
And I understand the point that you've made, and this applies only to larger school divisions because of precisely that.
But there are some of those school districts that have a lot more than 3,000 who've still got a high composite index number, and they're going to get killed by this.
Yeah, I'd submit that they're not going to get killed. They are still going to have more money per capita for each child who remains in the public school division. I think it'd be great.
Doesn't bring in all that money.
I think it would be great if, we're talking about charter schools that are going to educate kids by the thousands in one county. But the experience is that that's not going to be the case. And if it is the case, you know, I would say that that school division's got a real big problem because the parents want what the charter schools are delivering and that their local school division is not. And I think that, you know, we're just not going to see that kind of cataclysmic change. You know, I wish that, you know, we could, but I think that I appreciate the confidence in the popularity of these schools, and I hope that they are popular. But think about why they would be popular. Sarah McEachin used to argue with me, said, you know, this is immoral to create these charter schools because in D.C. people, you know, are chosen by lottery, and you have high school gymnasiums full of thousands of parents who want their children to go to this charter school. But only a handful are able to get in. Never before have I heard that because so many people are dying for that benefit that we shouldn't provide it to anybody.
Open it up to everybody. Every student in Virginia. Look,
Madam Chairman,
I have, this is the prerogative of the chair, Senator Cosgrove. All right, thank you so much. Now, I'm telling you what we're gonna do. If we don't get to the end of this docket for these bills, the only time that I see on this calendar that we can come back is 7 o'clock tonight. So do you all want to do that? No, that's the only time that we can get
Madam
back in
Chairman, I
here.
move to report.
It's been moved and probably seconded that the bill be reported. All in favor, please.
Madam Chair, just to be clear on the motion,
Yes.
is report
Michael.
and re-refer with a substitute. to
Yes, every bill in this block is going to every bill in this block is going to finance. It has been requested. Yes, the bill will be reported and re-referred to finance. Now, are we ready for this electronic vote?
Yes,
Madam
ma'am,
Chair.
we are in position.
Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 6, noes 8.
Pink was a yes, too. Pink's a yes.
Ayes 7, noes 8.
Bill fails.
The bill fails. See you in the next bill, Senator O'Shea. Senator Favola's bill will go by for the week, or is that for the day? Next bill in the queue, let me see, I have other speakers out there. Eben is gone. Wait a minute, I'm looking for speakers who are in the audience. I'm going by my queue. I'm going by queue, but who was in here first. The next person I have is Favola, her bill is gonna go by. Clerk, can I ask you to clean up the queue? Because Eben's gone, Obenshane's gone, Favola's gonna go by.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 3 bills left. Chase, DeSteph, and Stanley. Chase is not here. Next bill, DeSteph.
Madam Chair, as a member of the committee, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to try to be brief.
It will be very much appreciated.
Be very respectful of your agenda. I believe we have a substitute.
It's been moved and seconded that the substitute be adopted. All in favor, please say aye. Substitute is adopted. Senator DeSteph,
And I know we have some speakers on this too, so I'm going to be very brief and quick.
you have
and
3
then hand it
minutes
over.
each side.
So, top line, school resource officers play a very critical role in building positive relationships with students and providing increased threat protection in our schools. School resource officers are not just armed guards standing sentry at school entrances. They're men and women who receive training and counseling and other skills that help them be effective in school setting. Part of school resource officers' job training includes building relationships with the students, faculty, social service advocates, and really looking out for the things that they can pick up on and move over into other areas. Today, in Virginia, we have 705 schools that do not have school resource officers. What this bill does, and in line with the governor's budget amendment, and I have one to handle the localities side of this, is it puts one in every school we have. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can go into much more details. I've got all kinds of statistics And by the way, this is one of the recommendations out of the Commission on Youth report from 2019 on school resource officers, which a few of y'all are members and on the report, on the committee.
Yes. You have 3 minutes for your,
And I'll move out of the way because I know we should have some speakers.
For those in the Zoom room who would like to speak in favor, please raise your hand electronically now.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ashley Trafficant. I'm an Assistant Secretary with the Governor's Office in Public Safety and Homeland Security. Just wanted to thank you for the chance to be here today. As you know, the administration is strongly supportive of this legislation, and thank you, Senator DeSteph, for it. This is a day one game plan priority, and this is about two things. This is about school safety and communities, as Senator DeSteph said. So just here in favor. Thank you for your time. I'll keep it brief. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. DeGrant? Herb?
Morning, Madam Chair. Missed you in Smithfield back in December, but I think a casino had priority. In any case, as a 13-year member of the Allouez County School Board, I very early on became a strong supporter of school resource officers. Why? Timing's everything. We have 4 somewhat remotely located elementary schools in Allouez County. And one Saturday morning, a couple of years ago, when I went to an event at International Paper, I decided to go by Carsville Elementary. I had an entry card. Went over, opened up the door, went in, looked around, because I have a real pet peeve, unnecessary lights on. And I didn't find any. So I mentioned it to Laura the next week when I saw her, the Carsville principal. She said, the alarm didn't go off? I said, what alarm? Guess what? We found out in checking the sheriff's records 15 minutes after I left, the deputy showed up to find out why the alarm went off. Having an SRO in every school is important because timing is everything. We learned that in the Marine Corps. Be proactive, not reactive. So having that SRO there does a lot of things to ensuring safe schools. Local school boards have that responsibility. We need to make sure that they all live up to it. Our Board of Supervisors, after the Quaker or Amish school shooting in Pennsylvania, put almost $350,000 in the budget to put them all in all of our schools, and our sheriff did that. It's important for the safety of our children. As Pam Edwards used to always say, my fellow board member, it's about the children. Our children, keep them safe and secure. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Herb.
Hoorah, Herb.
If you're in the Zoom room and would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically now.
I think there's someone out there who would like to speak. Please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was speaking in opposition. I didn't know if you were taking
Yes.
opposition testimony now. Amy Woolard with Legal Aid Justice Center. We do oppose this bill. Right now, the conversation around SROs is active in many local communities. Local communities, students, teachers, families are talking about this, having very thoughtful conversations about what's right for their own communities. Those should continue. In this regard, Senator McClellan's bill earlier, if we're talking about who needs to be staffed in our schools, we should make sure that we're fully funded to have the counselors and other support staff in the building before we look to mandating more police officers. So we hope that you oppose this bill.
There's another speaker here in person.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Stacey Haney on behalf of the Virginia School Boards Association. We're also opposed to the legislation. We believe that this is a decision best made at the local level. That's the current law, allows each school board to determine whether they want SROs and in which schools they want them, and we believe that that's the appropriate body to make that determination. We would welcome additional funding for those school boards that desire to have school resource officers in their schools, but we do not believe that the General Assembly should mandate it in every school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Andrew Goddard, Virginia Center for Public Safety. I'm here to speak in favor of...
Can you speak into the mic?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm here to speak in favor of any efforts to reduce violence in our schools. But many evaluations have been done of this SRO system, and the primary objective is to provide security, but they fail in many of those primary objectives. Not only do they fail at their primary objective, but they bring a number of very adverse side effects. So we would like to see that we looked at the data on who is dying, where they're dying, and make our best efforts to reduce the 98.8% of children that die from gun violence outside of schools before we try and double down on a failed experiment inside our schools. Thank you.
Having queued Senator Howell and then Senator Suderline.
I want to make sure that I totally understand the bill. This would cover every school, including elementary schools, is that correct?
Madam Chair, Senator Howell, yes, it would, with the exception of co-located middle schools and elementary schools. They would only have one in those instances. And I believe that the SROs, with the counseling they have and working with the social services and the nurse's office and the teachers, they've really prevented a lot of things as young as bullying and gang-related activity in our elementary schools.
I would just like to comment that it seems to me more appropriate for dealing with bullying and various emotional crises that children might have would be guidance counselors or nurses, but they're not included as an option in this bill. Isn't that correct?
Madam Chair, Senator Howell, actually, that's another section of code that addresses them. And what this does, our school resource officers work hand in hand with them, kind of as a force multiplier. So when they see something, they work with the guidance counselors, the nurses, to address any and all issues with the children.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but we aren't funding them for every school. And it seems to me that they may be more appropriate in many schools than resource officers who, as was pointed out, it often doesn't work anyway with the resource officer. Doesn't prevent the violence. They can't be everywhere. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Senator Howell, if I may, I'll wrap it up real quick.
Well, I have somebody else.
Yes, ma'am.
I have Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just speaking briefly to the bill, I like school resource officers. I think school resource officers have a very positive impact across Virginia. But looking at this bill, Floyd County, 15,000 people, 5 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. The parking lot of the middle school and high school is shared, so that would still put us at 6 officers in our county of 15,000. Roanoke County, where I represent and live, has a lot of good financial resources, more than Floyd, and we still don't have a school resource officer in every elementary school, including my children's own elementary school. And I think that as a budget amendment, how I approach it's different than how I approach it as a bill. I can't mandate it for Floyd County, every single school, that they have to do this under financial constraints, or even Roanoke County. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator D. Stiff, we got one more speaker, Senator Saslaw. I think you're the last person in queue. Senator Suderline, can you please turn your button off? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Senator Saslaw.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to, but local governments can best make that decision, and sometimes they don't make the right decision. And one of them, is in my district. Alexandria decided they didn't, on a 4-3 vote, they didn't want resource officers. 2 weeks into this school year that started in, last late August, early September, 2 weeks into that, after a series of problems, they invited them all back. So local governments really are, best fit to make that kind of decision. Interestingly enough, I ran into a retired school principal, and I remember I voted for this in '88. He said, in retrospect, he says, maybe we made a big mistake getting rid of corporal punishment. And he said there was no such thing as a school resource officer. When we had that, this all came about as a result of that. I don't know. But anyway, I just think it's best. I've always said that a foot in the rear end by the principal does a lot more good and less long-term damage to you than calling the policeman because you mouthed off to a teacher. Now you got a police record. This is nuts. But this should be left up, in my opinion, to local schools.
Senator D. Stiff, can you please wrap this up?
Madam Chair, I'll wrap it up real quick, and I'll actually tie in with what Senator Suderline and Senator Saslaw said, if I may. And I understand where Senator Saslow is coming from. And we had the Board of Education when I went to school, and it was used frequently. And may have been the recipient of it quite a few times. But I will tell you, after seeing the SROs in our elementary and middle schools and seeing the impact of that, they don't arrest them, they don't charge them. They actually work within the system to get them the appropriate help they need. They work in conjunction with the counselors. They work in conjunction with the nurses. They work in conjunction with the individuals who are the professionals to help identify what the problems are and handle them at the appropriate level without a police record coming in. And if we can divert and handle this quickly, then I think that helps. And with Senator Suderline, where schools have adjoining parking lots or schools are adjoining together, they only need one school resource officer. If they want to have multiple, then they can have multiple. What's in the governor's budget and what my budget amendment does is makes the schools harmless, holds them harmless, and covers all of the costs whatsoever. So there is no financial impact on the schools. And again, I believe power projection is a force deterrent. When you get a
Senator
bunch of
DeSteph,
people working on this,
are you trying to wrap
help
this
solve
up?
it. Yes, ma'am. With that, I hope you'll pass the bill.
Do I get a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded that the bill be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance, as are all bills in this section. This is an electronic vote, of course.
Okay.
Clerk, open the roll.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you very
Ayes
much for your
4,
time.
noes 11.
Ayes 4, noes 11. We're going to flip the vote, and so the bill fails. Senator Stanley?
Yes.
You're next.
I don't
know.
I'm
Clerk,
not sure if
could
I
you
want to be
please take-
now, but okay. Here we go.
I'm gonna ask the clerk to clean up my queue so I know who's here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I will try to be as fast as possible. I have not permitted anybody to speak for this bill, but they may show up anyway. Madam Chair, members of the committee, the first bill before you for consideration is Senate Bill 603. This comes out of the School Modernization Commission chaired by Senator Jen McClellan. It's a recommendation actually of an older bill that I had years ago, which got out of the Senate, which basically requires the Board of Education to make recommendations to you, Madam Chair, and make those reports to you for amendments to the standard of quality that will establish standards for the maintenance and operations, renovation, and new construction of new public elementary, secondary, and secondary school buildings. Those recommendations will be basically what will be standards for the percentage of current replacement values of public school buildings. The school board should budget for the maintenance and operation of their buildings using their own funds and such other standards as that board deems appropriate. It requires this bill requires the solicitation of the input of stakeholders and the public in developing these type of recommendations. And then, of course, when they get these recommendations together, then they come to you, Madam Chair, on December 1st of this year and present those to you. And from that, we can make then either legislation or policy recommendations based on that. And that's the bill.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there questions of the patron? Are there those in the audience who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the bill?
If there is anybody on the Zoom who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the bill, please raise your hand now.
Okay, we have an in-person.
Good morning, Jenna Alexander, Virginia PTA. I know you're short on time. I just want to say we very strongly support this bill. Just as we have standards to staff our school buildings should be staffed, should be held to modern safety health standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Howell?
I just wanted to move that we report and re-refer.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the bill be reported and re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor, please vote electronically. Names are the same, right? Thank you, Senator Stanley. Do you have another bill in here?
I do. I have two more, but I'll be very quick.
I'd like that very
Ayes
much.
14, no 0.
Two eds and a health.
Okay, the vote is ayes 14, no 0. The bill is reported. Senator Stanley, you got two more bills, and you said you're going to be very quick, and it's going to be very much
Yes, two
appreciated.
eds and a health. So Senate Bill 628, which is now before the committee, Madam Chair, members of the committee, is basically an incentive fund which has been in collaboration with the Newport News shipbuilders. As you may know, we have a trade drain, not just in our area, but across the state, where a lot of high-skilled
Correct.
jobs, as we're moving into high-skilled engineering, manufacturing jobs, we're not providing the workforce pipeline and training through our high schools. In the 80s, I remember, I have a friend of mine who actually did not go to college when we all went to college. When we came back from college in 1989, he had a huge pool and a huge house in Chantilly, and I had to go to law school. And he's been very successful ever since. And so this provides
Madam
opportunity for those.
Chair, I
Senator
think this
Lund.
bill's pretty straightforward.
Yes,
I move that we report and re-refer to finance.
It's been moved and seconded, the bill be reported and re-referred to
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, there are some line amendments.
Oh, we have line amendments?
I apologize.
Okay,
As amended.
I need a motion. I need a motion on the line amendments. All in favor of the line amendments, please vote, and please say aye. Aye. Okay, we got the line, okay, now the bill will be reported as amended and re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion, please designate electronically, yea or nay. Thank you, Senator Locke.
Ayes
Thank you,
15, no
Senator
zero.
Stanley.
I'll take Senator Locke. That's quite a
Let me
compliment.
report, please. The
Thank you.
vote is yeas 15, nays 0. The bill is reported and will be referred to Senator Finance. Senator Stanley, you now have 663.
Yes, this is my best day ever here, and I want to thank you for that. And I'm sure it may. It may. I know. Okay, 663, basically if you remember my son, he was a page and had the privilege of being with you all, learned so much, but he also became an EMT, and he works in an underserved, underprivileged area. What we're having is a problem right now where a lot of people, the slow pay, no pays, or maybe the ones that shouldn't go to emergency rooms in hospitals, are actually, the EMTs go out there and they can't provide on-site services. The only way that EMTs get paid through Medicaid patients, qualified patients, is if they transport them. When they transport them, that actually gums up our hospitals in our rural, underserved, and underprivileged areas. What this allows for is teleparamedicine, when those things in synchronous with the doctors at the hospitals, to allow treatment to be at the site and to be compensable. It's because the EMTs, whether it's public safety or volunteers,
I think we
only get paid when
understand.
they take it on
I
the.
think we understand.
That's for my
Yeah,
son.
we are, there are no amendments.
And that's, so this would make them eligible for payment.
It's been moved and seconded, the bill be reported and be referred to Senate Finance. Clerk,
I'm
open the roll.
exhausted.
Clerk, close roll. Ayes 14, go ahead, clerk.
Madam Chair, how do you vote?
Oh, I vote yes.
How do you vote? Your vote will be noted, Madam Chair. Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no 0. Senator Stanley, the
Thank you.
bill is reported and will be referred to Senate Finance. You have a good day, sir.
Thank you, you too, and
Okay,
that was
goodbye.
quite a workout. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay,
It's like
now,
Peloton.
and I don't have anybody else in queue, so I'm gonna try to get back to the calendar and see if we can try to get these bills out of here. Senator Peterson, you have Senate Bill 205.
Okay, is that my CON bill?
Yes. It is.
Yes.
And we do have a COPN meeting scheduled for, it was supposed to be after this meeting, but we're not gonna make
Looks like
it.
this is the meeting.
I'm sorry. Senator Peterson, if you don't mind, we're gonna add this to the COPN docket. Yes, it's gotta go to finance. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's gotta go to
Listen-
finance.
Listen to the clerk, don't listen to me on this one.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the committee, this is a bill that I've had. Is there a substitute? Yes? If the substitute could be distributed, please.
Can, get a motion on the substitute? It's been moved and seconded, the substitute be adopted. All in favor, say aye. Ayes have it. Senator Peterson, go right ahead.
Yeah, while the substitute's being distributed, let me give the background. This is a bill I've had for the last few sessions. It has to do with diagnostic imaging and other services that they would have an expedited COPN review. I don't need to go into the whole background of COPN. I've never been a huge fan of the system, but I do believe if we are going to have it, we need to have some type of expedited review, particularly for really customer-facing strategies and technologies and services, so people can really move these forward in the community and the community can have more access. This is not a COPN repeal, so the host hospitals associations do not have to have a heart attack, but it would make the process expedited and hopefully easier. And I know I've got some expert witnesses here, so
Well,
I'll step aside.
We have questions by members of the committee first. Senator Donovan.
No, my mistake.
Okay, Senator Peterson, bring up your expert witness. 2 minutes each side, Senator Peterson.
That's fine.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Lauren Schmidt on behalf of the Virginia Orthopedic Society. We support this bill. We do think that this is a reasonable approach to modernizing the current COPN program. As Senator Peterson said, it's setting up an expedited review for limited projects that we think are going to increase access to more affordable care for more patients in Virginia. Thank you.
If you're in the Zoom room and would like to speak to this bill, please raise your hand electronically now.
Yes.
Good morning, Madam Chairman.
Good morning.
This bill would allow for Clark Barron with the Medical Society. This bill would allow for a small allowance for projects to create greater access to care. The amendments add a review process for feasibility and community needs such that projects can be
Madam
done
Chair.
in 60 days.
If there is no one that's going to speak in opposition, I move we report and re-refer.
Is there anyone in the Zoom room who is in opposition to this bill?
There are none at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, we've had a motion.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
I just have one question for
Sure.
Senator Peterson. Chap, good
Yes,
bill,
sir.
but I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You know that hospitals have to provide indigent care under any circumstances.
Yes.
Is there anything in here that requires those people who are doing imaging or other diagnostics? I'm talking to the senator right
Well,
now.
I'm going to, yeah, I think there's
Madam
a charity
Chair?
care component to it.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I thought we did that.
I thought we did also. Did we move the substitute?
Madam
I
Chair,
move the substitute.
I don't think we did.
Okay, move substitute.
Okay, it's been moved, properly seconded, the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Senator Peterson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glancing at it. There is a charity care provision that's actually defined on line 19. Obviously, this would not change anything in terms of, like I said, this isn't changing the substance of the law right now. It's just
Okay.
expediting the review.
All right, thank you.
I see a speaker coming to the microphone. Jennifer? Who's speaking?
Turn it over to Brent.
Okay, got it.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Brent Rawlings for the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association.
Thank you.
I apologize, I missed all of the previous testimony. I'm coming in here hot, but we just want to express our opposition to the bill for several reasons. The first being, we really think the question here has already been asked and answered. This bill has been before this committee before. It is voted to pass by indefinitely in 2020. It's the same bill that was introduced then, Senate Bill 503. And also, at that same year, 2020, we passed a significant piece of legislation, Senate Bill 764, which was a more comprehensive bill. Included within that was language specifically directing the State Health Services Task Force to make recommendations on projects that should be approved for expedited review. So saying that to say we've already established a process to address that, and that this really just circumvents that process. And I guess just the last thing, our major concern with the bill is that it creates a distinct carve-out for specialty services providers, requiring all other providers to go through the full process outside of the certificate of need review and state medical facilities plan. And once that happens, in order for a new applicant to apply for that COPN, you have to show that there's a need and capacity. All that need and capacity is going to be soaked up by those new entrants into the market, those that have a separate set of rules. So just wanted to get that in as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Peterson.
Well,
if it didn't have to go to finance, this would be in the COPN group, but go right ahead.
And that'd be fine. You know, it's funny, I brought a lot of bills that got killed before, and that optometrist
Yes, it does.
bill
That's
got
why
killed
it's
every
go-
year
yes.
too, and that just passed on a pretty good vote, so.
I'm sorry, Senator Donovan, but all of the bills, as I've said twice already, all of the bills in this section will go to finance.
Okay. You know what, on the merits, this is a good idea. This is going to improve customer care, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
Madam
Peterson.
Chair?
Open for Senator Barker.
Yes. I think this is a bill that needs a lot more time to be able to address the issues here. Part of the problem we have, and part of the reason a significant part of the reason why we need the certificate of need law to be able to review these applications in a timely manner and to move forward on things, is that the reimbursement system is not equitable as you look at it. There are two services that hospitals make significant money on: diagnostic imaging and surgery. That's what this bill is designed to take out of the hospital and place in other settings. the hospitals have inpatients, but they also provide, most of their care actually is to outpatients on those types of services. And what we need to do is to make sure that we don't destroy the hospitals and drive them into bankruptcy. What we need to do is to make sure that we are not setting up something that is going to, in effect, undermine the financial stability of the hospitals in Virginia. And I think that that's what this would be, a significant step in that direction.
Madam Chair.
I'll move to report.
You have a motion, second. Just speaking just briefly, just a little other side. I don't think this bill necessarily does that. This bill, what they're doing is the process is so expensive and so convoluted that people just don't try. And what this bill is trying to do, as I understand it, is that we're trying to go through and say, let's streamline that process and let's allow these individuals to go in, make the application, and actually get an up or down vote without it being so expensive that they can't do it. So I appreciate Senator Peterson's bill. I don't know if he'll ever make it, but I think this is a good approach.
There's a motion, and there was a second. And so, clerk, could you please open roll? Yeah, this was
The motion- I'm sorry.
The motion was to report.
Ayes 8, no 7.
It's got to go to Senate Finance. So the bill will be reported and it was 8 yeas, 7 nays. The bill is reported, and it will go to Senate Finance. Senator Hashmi, you have Senate Bill 245.
Madam Chair, I have two bills. With SB 245, I ask the committee roll SB 245 into Senator Favola's SB 201.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second that the two bills will be incorporated. All in favor of that motion? Clerk, do we need to vote electronically on this bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do. I was just getting it set up in the system.
Thank you.
You can vote there, Madam. You can vote.
Thank you.
Ayes 15, no 0.
The bill to be incorporated, the vote is 15 yeas and 0 nays. Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll try to be quick on this next bill. It's SB 668. It is the Death with Dignity Act, and I know that there is considerable discussion around this particular issue, and I know that the General Assembly has entertained similar legislation in the past. I just wanted to bring this bill to the attention of the committee. We've had a lot of individuals requesting and supporting this legislation, and really it boils down to 3 words: compassion, dignity, and agency. Compassion for those who are making extremely difficult end-of-life decisions, dignity for their choices that they are making in conjunction with their family members, their loved ones, and with their physicians, and agency so that they have the right to make those decisions for themselves and to alleviate pain and suffering at the end of life that they may face. This particular bill replicates bills that are legislation that has been passed successfully in other states. It does have at least a dozen safeguards to prevent misuse or abuse. It is a decision that would be made in conjunction with healthcare providers, with a team, and the individuals who would make these decisions for themselves would have to have appropriate mental capacity and be adults in their decisions. And so again, I bring this bill for my constituents who have requested, and then we may have a few speakers if we have any time to entertain.
Senator Hashmi, you say you have speakers in the audience?
If you're in the Zoom room and would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically now. There are quite a few in the Zoom room, Madam Chair.
2 minutes, each side.
Kate Vasilov, Please unmute and begin your testimony now.
Kate Faziloff, please unmute yourself and begin with your testimony.
Thank you so much for listening, and I'll speak quickly. My dad, George Vasloff, was diagnosed with ALS. He's a Marine Corps veteran, lived in Arlington, Virginia. ALS is a diagnosis of elimination, and so after many, many months, when he finally got the diagnosis, I rushed to be at his side, and we were up late talking, and he was just devastated. He was just handed a terminal disease, and he was just terrified. And I didn't know what I was saying. I just knew that I needed to protect him in that moment and give him some peace. And I said, I don't know what it looks like, but I will make sure you go when you're ready to go. After 6 months of tests and evaluations and everything, the man went to bed and woke up the next morning after being given a terminal diagnosis and said, you giving me the opportunity to go on my own terms gave me more peace than I thought I'd ever have again in my life. So that was enough for me to fight for medical aid and dying with dignity, giving this option, a complete option to people who want it, who have terminal diseases, who are already suffering, give them an option to end their own life peacefully when they have a doctor approving their mental capacity is so important. Not everyone needs to access it. It's just an option for those who want it. Please consider passing Death with Dignity Act.
Angela Herring, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
I believe I'm unmuted
Yes.
now.
Yes,
Okay.
please give your testimony.
Okay. Chairwoman Lucas and members of the Senate Education and Health Committee, I'm Dr. Angela Herring, and I'm speaking in support of Senate Bill 668. I'm speaking as a retired family physician in Newport News who has cared for patients with terminal illnesses. As a patient, imagine being told your cancer is now terminal, nothing more can be done, and you have a very short time to live, maybe days or weeks. Your need for pain medicine is getting more frequent and the amount of relief less. If it gets much worse, you're not sure how you will be able to stand it. If this bill becomes law in Virginia, you will be able to request a prescription to take to die peacefully if you choose, should your suffering become unbearable.
I'm so
Death
sorry.
is certain.
I'm so sorry. We're out of time. Time has expired. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we don't have sufficient time. I would ask the committee consider supporting this bill.
Okay, you have opposition standing behind you.
Madam Chair, so if I just announce the people that are in support of this: Richard Morgan, Melissa Stacy, Lauren Cannery, Julie Hastings, Patrick Newstatter, and Judy Welp are all in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you are in the Zoom room and would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically now.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jeff Caruso with the Virginia Catholic Conference. I'll be extremely brief. Every person facing the end of life should have access to quality medical and palliative care, not means to intentionally hasten their death. No patient, whether disabled, mentally ill, elderly, or otherwise, should ever be abandoned or subjected to the risk inherent in legalizing assisted suicide. Please oppose this bill. Thank you.
Maureen Hollowell with the Virginia Association of Centers for Independent Living. We oppose Senate Bill 668. Coercion and fraud are real possibilities and circumstances in which others may believe death is more acceptable than living with a health care condition or disability. Some people with severe disabilities are made to feel their lives are burdened on others, or others may make them feel uncomfortable with certain functions that must be performed to sustain their life. Assisted suicide will diminish supports, increase potential for coercion, and end the lives of people with disabilities simply because they have a disability. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Louise Hartz of Henrico County, and I represent the Virginia Society for Human Life. The Virginia Society for Human Life opposes Senate Bill 668. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, Todd Gackey, on behalf of the Family Foundation, for the sake of time, we agree with those that went before us, and we're opposed to this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there's no one in the Zoom room.
Thank you so much. Does any member of the committee? Okay, in queue, I see Senator Cosgrove, Senator Peterson, in that order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll be very brief. This is a very important and grave piece of legislation. We are at the end of a very hectic docket, and I would really hate to see this rush through. This is probably one of the most important bills that we will see during this session. And I would ask the chair if this could go to our next meeting. This is a very, very important bill, and there are very diverse opinions on this bill. So I'll leave that to you, Madam Chairman.
I would prefer not to, but, I mean, because we have a ton of bills coming over in the next committee meeting.
Madam Chair.
And so I would really like to have an up or down vote on this bill.
Madam Chair,
Senator Peterson.
I've got two questions, and I'm kind of in the mix on this. It says any adult in the legislation. What about somebody who's in their 20s or 30s? I mean, we tend to think of any adult being someone in their 80s and 90s. What about someone who suffers from depression?
No, Madam Chair and Senator Peterson, this is for individuals who are facing terminal illness. And so if it is a young
defined?
person who's facing terminal illness and has a very limited life expectancy, then they would be able to have this conversation with their physicians, but not someone suffering from depression.
Would that terminal illness include Alzheimer's?
Madam Chair and Senator Peterson, it would have to be a decision made when the adult is in full conversation with his or her faculties. When an individual is in Alzheimer's and not able to make that decision, no other individual will be able to make that decision for them.
Okay, now those are the two sort of spiritual. And here's the very secular question. What if you have an insurance policy which basically nullifies life insurance payout if you commit suicide? And I see there was a section that dealt with that, but I didn't quite understand it. It just said you can't use it as a defense.
Madam Chair and Senator Peterson, that's correct. Insurance policies cannot discriminate on the basis of this legislation. If a person chooses to receive medical aid in their life,
So if
final life
somebody ends their
decision.
life voluntarily, they're going to get a life insurance payout? I don't think the insurance industry is going to be too crazy about it. I'm not here to defend them, but
This bill protects the life insurance for the family recipients if they are making this decision following these guidelines in the care of physicians.
okay.
You done, Senator Peterson?
Madam Chair.
Okay, Senator Newman, you're next in queue.
I'd just like to move that we PBI the bill. I'm not going to make any comments about I know the gentlelady's sincere and has strong feelings about it, but it's a big move, and I would move the PBI.
Substitute motion.
There's a substitute motion?
That the bill be reported.
The substitute motion is that the bill be reported. And it's been second. And referred to finance, of course, this whole block. All in favor of reporting the bill with the substitute, please vote electronically.
Ayes 7, no 7, abstentions 1.
Ayes 7, no 7, extension 1. The bill does not pass.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Heisman. Senate Bill 760, Senator Shuline.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 760, this is for those of us that have been working for more performance-based assessments rather than as much standardized testing. I know there's concerns about how we do that. So what this bill does is has the Department of Education develop a task bank of such performance-based assessments so that they can vet them. And it has the criteria spelled out right there in the bill. The whole goal of this is to help increase confidence in these performance-based incentives and have more involvement in it so that something that's developed in Roanoke City that works well could be, provided to Fairfax County, something that Fairfax County develops well, and the Department of Education also thinks looks good to be sent to Henrico and all over Virginia.
Any questions?
And Lynchburg.
Any questions of the Patriot?
It's a great bill.
Senator Newman?
Dave, you're going to build a bank. Does this change in any way the underlying requirements as it relates to testing, or is it just building an optional bank?
It's the latter, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the patron? We move by motion?
Move to report.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. All in favor of that motion, please designate on the electronic voting board. Yes, everything in here going to finance. Thank you. The bill is reported and will be re-referred to Senate Finance.
Ayes
Thank you, Madam
14,
Chair.
no zero.
Thank you. The next bill is my bill, and it does not have to go to finance. I'm passing the gavel to Senator Saslaw. The bill number is Senate Bill 662 on page 6. Six six two.
All right, 662, the Department of Education's school quality profiles, teacher data. You're up,
Yes.
Senator Lucas.
Yes, Mr. Acting Chair, this is the teacher diversity data bill. And what Senate Bill 662 does, it will make data about the diversity of our teachers and the languages that they speak available on Virginia school quality profiles. This would be similar to the way aggregated, depersonalized data is reported on the diversity of our students. Virginia school quality profiles provide data about students' achievement, college and career readiness, program completion, school safety, teacher quality, and other factors that can impact students' learning and achievement, such as absenteeism, participation in school breakfast and lunch programs, and student discipline. Research indicates that teachers are the most important school-based factor for students' growth and achievement. Research also shows that student diversity impacts students' outcomes, students of color who have teachers of similar race, ethnicity, or lived experiences, and that they are likely to be suspended and more likely to graduate high school, enroll in post-secondary education, and obtain a post-secondary degree or credential. Data from the 2021 school year shows that while 54% of our Virginia students are students of color, only 20% of Virginia's teachers are teachers of color. And Mr. Chairman, I could go on, but like I did with all the other speakers, I will condense my remarks and ask if there's any.
Now, is there anyone, you've concluded your remarks?
Yes, unless you want to hear more,
All
yes.
right, first off, any questions of the patron body committee members? All right, anyone in the audience here want to speak either in favor or in opposition quickly?
If there's anybody in the Zoom room who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Okay, your name?
Good morning, Jenna Alexander, Virginia PTA. Thank you very much for bringing this bill forward. To build a world-class education system, we need data to make informed decisions. Despite efforts over the years to improve teacher diversity, there's not publicly available data for us to track this effort. Including this in the school quality profiles, which is required under ESSA, would provide our parents with an opportunity to see work towards this effort and hold our school divisions accountable. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
If there is anybody in the Zoom room who would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically now.
All right, the bill's before us. Is there a motion?
Move to report and re-refer.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to report.
Finance did not ask for this bill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Does or does not go to finance?
Does not.
All right, just a motion to report. Vote aye. If you oppose,
My
vote
apologies,
nay.
Mr. Chair.
Only
I'm going to
three
clear
to
that vote
nothing.
if you don't mind.
You going to do it over?
Yes, sir. Is it all right if I open the vote? Ayes 11, noes 2, abstentions 1.
Bill's reported.
Thank you, Senator Saslaw. Now, we only have one other item of business, and that is the COPN, not another bill.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair.
Oh, I did not see Senator Pavola. We had passed your bill by.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Can we reconsider that?
This is Senate Bill 130, Madam Chair. Is that the one you're referring to?
201.
Oh, 201 I asked to go
Yes,
by for the
201.
day. 201 I asked to go by for the day.
Yes, there's not a, you don't have another bill on our docket. Okay. Say what? Sorry about that. I wasn't trying to ignore you, Senator Donovan. Okay, we will hear your bill.
Madam Chairman, this is Senate Bill 429. This is a bill that passed unanimously out of this committee, out of finance, and off the floor of the Senate a few years ago. It is an app for school. It is a bimodal app. One connects students to, or really anybody in Virginia, to mental health resources. The other side of the app connects to the Fusion Center at the state police. There is a fiscal impact. I can give you data and statistics, but in light of the timing, Madam Chairman, if it's the temperament of the committee, we can move forward with a motion.
Madam, which bill are we on?
It's Senate Bill 429 on page 4, at the top of page 4. Been moved and properly second that the bill be reported. All in favor of that motion, please designate on the electronic voting board. And this bill, of course, in this block means that it will go to Senate Finance. So the bill will be reported, be referred to Finance based on the report, based on the vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Clerk, open roll. I'm sorry?
Madam Chair, I
I'm
believe
so
there's a
sorry.
substitute.
There's a substitute.
Oh, okay. Okay, there's a motion and a second.
Too fast.
To pass the substitute. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The substitute is adopted. Now back to the main motion, and that is to have the bill reported, and that is Senate Bill 429, and have it re-referred to Senate Finance with a substitute.
Second.
It's been moved, and it's been second. All in favor of that motion, electronic board, designate, please. Clerk, close the roll.
Madam Chair, give me 1 second. Are you good? Senator Saslaw's proxy.
Who has his proxy? I think he's in there now. Okay, thank you.
Ayes 14, no 0, abstentions 1.
Ayes 14, no 0, extensions 1. The bill is reported and will be referred to Senate Finance with the substitute. And Senator Barker, did you have? Senate Bill 406. Senate Bill 406. I'm sorry, I had those two pages stuck together.
All right. Senate Bill 406 is legislation that was developed by the Joint Commission on Healthcare. During this past year, we had a study done to deal with staffing issues in nursing homes, which has been a significant issue in Virginia over years. There have been many bills that have been put in to try to provide staffing standards. And every year they've been defeated because we didn't have the reimbursement system set up to be able to compensate.
Sure.
We pay less than what it costs to provide care from Medicaid, and about 2/3 of the patients statewide are recipients of Medicaid who are in nursing homes. So it does have a significant impact upon the viability and the ability of nursing homes to be able to cover the cost of the staff that's necessary. What we have here, however, is that we have addressed the issue relating to the reimbursement so that it's finally time that we be able to move forward. 3/4 of the states nationally provide staffing standards for nursing homes. We're one of the 13 states that doesn't. And it's always been based upon the fact that we didn't have the reimbursement funding to cover the cost in the nursing homes. There are adequate staffing has been shown in nursing homes have been shown to be strongly linked to quality of care. And what we have is that based upon information from CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, 1/5 of the nursing homes in Virginia are below the staffing standard that they need for the patients that they have and the acuity levels of those patients. We have a lot of flexibility in terms of what we've recommended here, that it will not be just the sort of everybody has the same standard. It will be based on the acuity of care, the acuity of the needs of the individuals in each nursing home. And we will move forward with that fairly quickly. It's already reported that acuity for every facility in Virginia that is participating in Medicare or Medicaid, and that's nearly all the facilities in Virginia. A few in the continuing care retirement communities don't have it, but everybody else does. What we also will do here, we do have an enactment clause that says this is contingent upon the reimbursement system that is being implemented presumably in July of this year for the next fiscal year. Been an extensive study to develop a value-based reimbursement system, which will provide different reimbursements for different facilities based upon how they operate. And two of the issues that they're factoring into that are issues related to staffing. So if you hire the staff, you will actually get more money as part of the reimbursement system there. So there are a lot of those things that are being addressed this year, and there's basically this would not go into effect unless this value-based purchasing plan moves forward. There will be one other thing that I will address if this goes up to finance, and that is to give the nursing homes who are below the standards that Medicare says they need to meet quality, to provide fully the quality of care that's appropriate. And we've had, during the pandemic, we've lost a lot of staff within nursing homes and assisted living facilities, other operations like this. We'd had over 80,000 people in Virginia providing direct care prior to the pandemic. We're less than 70,000 now. So we do need to make sure we give some time to the facilities to be able to get up, to be able to hire the people, because right now, even if they want to, in some instances, they have great difficulty finding people to provide, that are willing to provide the services. I do have, their staff from the Joint Commission on Healthcare who are here, can answer questions if anything I couldn't handle, but I would just ask that this bill be reported and re-referred up to finance. So,
Thank you, Senator Barker. Questions of the speaker, of the patron?
Madam Chair?
Senator Lewis? Senator Edwards?
yes.
Senator, my concern has always been with staffing standards, not having adequate care and not adequate staff.
Right.
I chaired the board of a Virginia Lutheran Homes for many years, and I'll give you a little bit of history. It won't take forever, but when Medicaid was passed, you could run 100% nursing home, 100% Medicaid nursing home. Until early 80s, you can do the math as to who was president then, they started cutting back on Medicaid. By 1990, when I went to these conferences, the administrators throughout the country were complaining we had to have at least 30% private pay to make up the losses of Medicaid. By 1995, it was 50-50. You needed 50% private pay to make up the losses of Medicaid. What assurances do you have that this is going to make sure there's adequate funding to have the staff? That's the concern I'm having.
Yes. If you look on the bill on the third enactment, it basically indicates that this is contingent upon the initial funding that's proposed, and we can clarify that language in finance to make sure that it ties in with the value-based purchasing system that is being implemented in Virginia. And that's what gives us the opportunity to do this now, because we're going to provide the funding to the nursing homes so that they can hire these people and be able to provide care. And basically, it would make it so that they should be able to cover their costs from Medicaid, so that it would not make a difference whether you have 30% of your patients are Medicaid or 50% or 80%. And that's what we're trying to address here, to make sure that we have the resources to pay for the staff.
Madam Chair, is there any opposition?
There is some opposition.
I mean,
we've worked collaboratively through this process, and we're trying to do the best we can on it. But there is some opposition, and and given our history on some of these things, I can understand some of that. So,
Senator Barker, I see two speakers behind you, and so I'm going to limit it to 2 minutes so we can.
If you are in the Zoom room and would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand now.
I am Bonnie Atwood, representing the Virginia Retired Teachers Association, and we are in full support of this bill.
Thank you. Scott?
Yes, sir. Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Scott Johnson for the Virginia Healthcare Association. The members in the nursing home community feel like you're in the bottom of the Red Sea, like Moses, and you look to the right and you got a wave coming at you because you're not being reimbursed enough, and you look to the left and you got a wave coming at you because when you want to hire people, nobody shows up. And that's a tragedy we're in. And I know that y'all have dealt with this issue before, but this is a hammer approach. This is saying you have to have these staff, and they're not there to recruit and hire. We're losing people to McDonald's and Target and Wendy's, and we've lost 9,000 people by our estimate, 9,000. And yet at this point in time, we're being asked to put this ratio on. I remind you, last year you already addressed it. You passed a budget that contained a value-based purchasing program that DMAS is going to launch in July. And that program has got 40% of the reimbursement tied to hitting staffing metrics. That's a carrot approach. That's a good program. Every nursing home will be in it. This legislation, unfortunately, is taking it in an opposite direction and saying, we want a hammer and a stick. And that's contrary to what you did last year. And all due respect to my good friend Senator Barker, I would ask that you carry this bill over or table it. It is not the right time as we continue to suffer in COVID. Thank you.
Other speaker?
Madam Chair, Julie Dime with the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association, and we also oppose the bill, and I'll just associate my remarks with Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. And I can see by looking at the electronic board that we have quite a number of speakers in queue who are in opposition to the bill, and I would ask that the clerk just either call their names or have them say they just call their names. We see that they're in opposition.
Mark Hausick, Natalie Snyder, and Deborah Taylor.
No.
I assume you're in favor of the bill?
We are supporting the bill. Debbie Taylor and I both.
All
Okay, you showed up in the opposition column.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Senator Barker, you want to wrap it up? Senator Donovan and, okay,
Yes.
looking at queue, we have two speakers, Senator Donovan and Senator Edwards, and I'm going to give each of you 30 minutes, 30 seconds.
Madam Chairman, I'm just going to echo the comments that were made earlier. The way to solve this problem is to pay for the staffing ratios we want. And that is what value-based purchasing does. This is premature. This is, we should offer a carrot, not a stick. And this is based on the best intention. But I would suggest that offering the state's determination of what these staffing ratios should be is akin to actually intervening in high school sports, and we shouldn't be there. And I will just finish by saying the federal government already has these guidelines.
Senator Edwards, got your 30 seconds coming up. Okay, you give up, huh? Okay.
Madam Chair?
Senator Barker, you want to wrap it
Yeah,
up?
let me just wrap up real quick. This is basically, this is not just simply a stick. The enactment clause number 3 requires that we implement the value-based purchasing plan, and that will provide the resources necessary to cover the cost of this care. So it's not trying to, penalize people. What we also need to, what I will propose when we go up to finance, I didn't know this bill was going to be heard today, but is that we will provide time for them to be able to hire the people, which will, help those nursing homes that are behind in terms of their staffing levels, and certainly as Mr. Johnson indicated, not necessarily because of their decision to make that, but the difficulty in hiring staff to be able to cover
Okay, we
that.
need a motion?
And we will be able to get that.
Aye for the year.
If there's no substitute motion, the motion is to pass by for the year. And there is no substitute motion, so Senator Barker, we're going to have to vote on that motion.
Madam Chair, substitute motion.
Substitute motion?
Move to report.
Second.
It's been moved to
And re-refer
report.
to finance.
It's been moved to report, and there's a second, and be re-referred to Senate Finance. All in favor of that motion, please vote.
Oh, my apologies, sir.
Close the roll.
There you are, sir. You should.
I vote aye.
There you go, sir. It's
Okay, finally.
ayes 6, noes 8, abstentions 1.
Ayes 6, noes 8, abstentions 1. Sorry, Senator Barker. There being no further bills on the docket, I just need to make one quick announcement, and that is the COPN subcommittee was supposed to meet immediately following the Senate Education and Health, but obviously that's not going to happen today. But I do want to announce that we have 2 other members on that committee. It's going to be Senator Pillion and Senator Lewis, and I would hope that we could meet immediately upon adjournment of the session today. But if that's not possible, we will have to reschedule the COPN meeting. That's what we're going to have. We were supposed to meet here, but now since I think there are going to be others in this room, we're going to have to find another location. Committee should rise. Good job.